To our live stream. This is TOWTalk's last ditch pitch with the candidates. And we're just getting underway here. We're going to give some time for people to connect. We understand a lot of these candidates are out on the road right now, and they're knocking on doors and still seeing people. So we're going to probably have people. Oh, we got Frank popping in. He's here already. So, it's going to take a moment for him to upload, but we've already got Frank DenDanto joining us early on. Let me see if I can get the chat open. I don't know if we got. Yeah, it's probably going to take some people takes a while for some people to get connected, for some guests to join us. Let me get some messages out that we are live so that they can come and watch before we get started here. Because all I've got, I also, let me monitor. Let's see. Go into my YouTube. Oh, yes, and we are live. There we go. There we go. There. I just want to make sure if I can see the chat here.
Yeah, I gotta pull up the chat and see if that works.
Live stream chat.
I don't know. Frank was coming in, but I don't see him yet. So I think we can certainly give some background. To
those, you know why?
Those who are new. Why?
Maybe I have to unmute him. Let me see if I have to unmute him. See.
You also have to mute wherever you're listening to the YouTube on, because I'm hearing it.
Oh, that's already coming out. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I'm hearing it.
There we go. Wow, my mic really picks up everything. So how you doing, guys? Hey, there we go. So I logged in under my personal account just to make sure the chat is live. We don't really have any guests yet. Just the three of us. Just 3 connections so far. So that's the reason why we're probably not going to have too many people. Well, we are recording this. I'm going to make sure that we are recording this.
And I'm pretty sure that Frank will be joining us in a moment. But just some background for anybody new joining us. Obviously, the election is coming on Tuesday, November 4th. So just kind of want to make sure everybody gets out and votes, and this is sort of a last opportunity for candidates to sort of make their case, and we want to give a platform to all candidates. Doesn't matter, what affiliation you are. We want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to make their case. But we don't go easy on people here either, so we're a bit organic. And we try to ask the tough questions that the public want to know about, right? And try to provide some context and some clarity to the information, that people may have. Now, one of the things I would like to, since Frank is about to join us, that Frank has talked about is the idea of transparency, and to get some clarity as to what the town board is like, right? And what it was like under Frank, and part of the reason why Frank was framed. I want to share this little clip before he comes on, just so that he can maybe we can get him to talk about this a little himself.
And that is that these things shouldn't be talked about until there's...
Hold on. Sorry.
Here's the thing that I'm going to take umbrage with on your statement moments ago. And that is that these things shouldn't be talked about until there's consensus. That's a blatant affront to the democratic process. All of this, yes, brother, all of it. It needs to be out in front of the people, because that's what we do. We do this for the people. And when it's uncomfortable and ugly from a political place, then we take that into consideration so that we don't have to deal with the Ovids of the world. So that's part of this process. It's uncomfortable, I agree. It's difficult, I agree. It's very different than what you're used to. I understand that too. But I'm going to tell you that the more you solve here behind closed doors and go out there in unison and speak in one voice, while it's all pretty and makes for a concise meeting, lets everybody know that you're all doing backdoor deals. It lets everybody know that there's some other process that's unfolding that isn't in front of them. And that's real. Apparently, this is confusing, and I don't know why, because I really...
So I could continue playing it. I don't really think it's necessary in that instance. You know, I felt like that was necessary, though. I was there, a part of that conversation. The other individual that you heard talking in that video was Councilman Eric Valentin, who's running for county legislator.
Okay.
You know, he was the other person in that in that video or in that audio that you heard.
Right.
You know, it's true, right? Like, you hear the board talk about it. It actually is a true thing. Like, you heard former Supervisor Depew talk about it. You heard Supervisor Diana talk about it. And you've heard the councilman talk about it. When they go out in front of the public, the discussions have already been done. They don't want a discussion in the public. All right. By the time you go out, everybody needs to be in agreement. That's the outlier, right? That's what they want everybody to see is this voting in unison thing. And part of where that fell apart was obviously with me in the fact that I refused to go along with that. So I was no longer included in those conversations, in which point, you know, I had to vote no on things, right? Like, if you're not being given the information, you have to vote no, right? I mean, that's essentially the way it goes. And people can take those no votes whatever way they want, but that's just the way it happens. And oh, now we got Frank joining us.
There he is.
There he is. Thank you, Frank, for joining us.
Frank, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a slow connection. Oh, we lost him again.
Yeah, it sounds like he's having a little bit of a slow connection
Poor
there.
Frank is having technical difficulties.
All right. Well, we're gonna let. All right. So I you know, when you look at this transparency issue, right? The transparency issue, the issue of making sure that the public understands and knows what's happening in their local government. That's what Frank was trying to do. And you could clearly hear, right, from the others that were involved, Councilman Valentin, Councilman Coining, Councilman Johnson, they did not like that, right?
Right.
You know, once I was off the board, the first thing that they did was got rid of the Zoom at the work sessions, right? The first thing that they did was make everything back room again, right? Like, we went completely backwards, right? So we have to understand what transparency means, especially when you have real big differences between a guy like Ralph Carr and Frank DenDanto.
Right.
It looks like maybe Frank is back, so we're just kind of giving a lead in, Frank, for you.
Excellent. Can you guys hear me?
A little bit better now. Yeah.
All right. I guess the Wi-Fi to be dramatic. I tried to jump on the note that you gave me. I actually have a mic here that is filling poorly, so I apologize for my technical difficulties.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're having an issue with the mic, so you're making a decision between the earphones. You might want to just are you using a computer or your phone?
No, the computer had a problem.
Okay, so you might want to try then maybe just the phone and your earbuds or what.
Or if the Wi-Fi is what's the issue, maybe disconnect from the Wi-Fi and use your cellular.
That's a good idea too. Let's see if I can't do that. Would mind if we still around here a little bit? I'm a little tardy here.
Yeah, no, we got 3 hours, man.
I don't mean to be tardy.
That
No, you're good.
All right, back.
Okay,
All
we're
right.
here. We're not going anywhere. But in the meantime, folks, if you're here and you're watching and you have some questions, now would be a good time if you could start posting your questions. We're gonna take them down. If you got anything you want to ask Frank, I've reached out to Michael Sussman was planning on joining us, so he'll probably. Let me see if I've heard from him. He's got all the connection information. So, and I know these candidates have a busy, busy day. Today turned out to be a beautiful day, even though it's a little on the chilly side. So they are all out hitting the pavement. So I suspect more people will reach out later in the day as they wind down with their canvassing. And so if we run over and we go, 5:30 or 6 o'clock, that we'll do what we need to so that you guys can get your questions asked and your concerns addressed from the various candidates that are going to be joining us today. On some sad news, Steve Ella will be unable to join us today. He's councilman for the town of Wallkill. He has a family emergency. And so we just want to send him our love and our best wishes for his family at this time. All right. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity before Tuesday to speak to him. If not, just keep him in your thoughts. All right.
And if there's a question you have for any candidate, whether they're going to be on or not be on, ask us. We'll see if we can't get you an answer.
That's it. Yep. In fact, I'm thinking that for those candidates that may not make it, I'm thinking we might want to pop back on for an hour or two Monday night, since there is no hello, Mary, and Mary, and with Tom. Hello, Mary and Tom. We see you there. If you have additional questions, if they can't be on here, maybe what we'll do is we'll do it Monday evening, since there's no voting on Monday. Would be a good opportunity for anybody else. So just messages coming through on the phone here. So that's what we're doing. We're doing everything we can to get the information out to you. We want to have you engaged with the candidates. This is one thing that we haven't really had much here in the town of Wallkill. Everything's, they all say transparency, but then we don't ever get any information. So that's the reason why we're doing this.
How about, since we got Frank on, let's ask Frank a little about that, because I think that's a really good question, right? I had challenged my opponent to a debate. I know you had challenged your opponent to a debate when you first ran, and then when you ran for re-election, and then I did, and these Republicans seem adverse to debating. How do you feel about the whole lack of debate process now in local elections there, Frank?
Well, first, thanks for having me on here. I hope that this sound is a little better, Denise.
Much better.
Okay,
Perfect.
Good. Excellent. So here's the thing that's really interesting to me about debating in general. Debating requires some skill. It's not just getting up and arguing a point until you're throwing insults. Quite literally, the idea of a debate, for anyone who's ever studied that or actually had an opportunity to be on a debate team in school, which is a dying breed. The reality is that you actually have to use facts, and you have to be able to articulate your point in a way that is concise, but most specifically persuasive. And the simple fact of the matter is that I think that in terms of my opposition, there is no persuasiveness to addressing topics such as money issues at the town, because they're nearly irrefutable. And, as Neil had pointed out quite a while ago, Michael Sussman has joined us. Hey,
welcome, Mike. Mr. Sussman.
Good day, everybody. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Frank. Hey, Neil.
Hey, how you doing? Michael, good to see you.
Welcome.
Good to see you. I'm sorry to interrupt your conversation. Go right ahead.
No, listen, you could not have come at a better time. Quite honestly, I'm speaking about civics and the lack of debate classes in school. And I know you have something to say about this, because your opponent is also in the same boat, which is this idea that we don't really debate anymore. We cast aspersions and throw insults. And the reality is,
yeah.
that my first opponent in Diana knew he was smart enough not to get in the ring, so to speak, because he knew that he really couldn't defend the town's position financially. He didn't really have the wherewithal to speak intelligently to the town fiscal issues. My second opponent, Mr. Serrano, quite literally surfed on the red wave that came through. Of course, also casting dispersions in my direction. But here's what I've come to realize. When they don't have anything of substance, they generally insult. And we saw that in the one and only opportunity with the debate. It wasn't really a debate. It was more of a town hall meeting that we had at Wildflowers, where my opponent really didn't have much to say about anything other than to say that he thinks I should be disqualified because, you know, I'm a human being who sometimes uses the general vernacular. Here's what I'm saying. It's a joke. It's a joke. They have
Oh,
no stone to
absolutely.
stand on, and that's part of the problem. And I'm gonna hand it off to Michael because he can speak about this way more eloquently than I can.
Yeah. So,
Well,
so Michael, yeah, sorry.
Hello, Neil. How are you?
Good.
I have two things to say about the subject. Number one, I have proposed the creation of a countywide speech and debate league for our high school students, because I think that the skills that are necessary have to be imbued in individuals, as well as the interest in this type of discourse, which is critical to a democracy, have to be imbued in people, and they have to get to love it as I love it. I started this when I was in ninth grade, and I've never stopped, frankly. Now, look, the second point is very simple. Steve Newhouse has had an easy time of it since 2013, and we're 12 years later. He did have an opponent in 2013, Roxanne Donnery, who was a leader of the legislature and was a qualified candidate. And they did have one debate, I remember, at Paramount. In 2017, he had a late entry into the race who really wasn't well known in the county, and they had no debates. And of course, 4 years ago, there was no opponent. So it's not to me surprising that given his record, given the issues that have come up about his situation, not raised by me so much as by others with investigative backgrounds who know what's gone on, it's very, very understandable that he won't sit and debate. The only thing I have to say, though, about that particular decision on his part is he initially agreed. The Strauss Network called me and said, we're having a debate October 23rd at the Sapphire Elementary School in the Monroe Woodbury school system. Save the night. And we're having a debate. I was thrilled. I said, fantastic. I'd written him a letter on October 1st, to which he never replied, asking for 3 debates. So he agreed to one, and I said, fantastic. About 4 or 5 days later, I was told that he had orders to be on military duty and could not appear. This was about on or around October 13th. And I said, well, we have about, 20 more days. He's not going to be away the whole time. Let's find another date. That date doesn't work. We'll find another date, right? And there was no other date. I said, I'm available any day, anytime, morning, evening, afternoon, whatever you want to do it, let's do it. Crickets, nothing. Then I learned that this military orders thing was a facade, a farce, and he was doing other things that day. So, look, it's about honesty to some extent. Obviously, it's about defending one's record. And as you put it, and I think you're right, Frank, the lack of a debate encourages people to make all sorts of bizarre statements.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I was asking my wife, what is he talking? Who's he talking about? I don't know who he's talking about. Tax issues, health insurance issues, this. I don't even know what he's talking about. And there's no media. That's the other problem. I mean, Frank, I'm sure you found the same thing. We don't have a newspaper.
This is shocking.
So, you could say whatever you want. And as we also know, we're living in a very factless world. I've spent 9 months speaking about all sorts of facts about Valley View, about Camp LaGuardia, about the surplus, about the effective county property tax rate, about many, many issues. And half the people believe it, half the people don't believe it. And until you're really in a situation where they can see both candidates and evaluate responses and hear it, so it's really leaving the public, the voting public, in a disadvantaged situation. And I'm sorry for that, and I apologize to the members of the public for that, because I know you want to see the candidates debate. I'm ready, willing, and able to do it, but we're too close right now. It's never going to happen. We're a day away.
Yeah.
When Frank did his town hall at Wildflowers, I got then it was subsequently posted. There were comments back to me of, well, I don't know who to believe, and my response was always, well, you've heard me talk about it for 8 years, like who, about this issue. So who are you going to believe is the fact that believe your own eyes, right? Like if your own eyes are if they're rhetoric, right? I mean, and I said this back in the day, where you helped me, Mike. I don't know if you remember the asset forfeiture thing. I said this back in the day. If your words don't match what's on paper, right, then you have a problem, because then something's off, and that's what
But
we've
Neil,
come down to. That's what we're hearing.
Yeah, but I think the thing to say about that is people often don't join the discussion, meaning
Right.
that when you join as a debater's turn, engage. We don't have an engaged conversation about Valley View. I've said we have 213 people living there. We have a certificate of need from the state allowing 360 people to live there. We have 10 or 12 million dollars taking every year from our operating into our operating budget from monies reimbursed for Valley View. Those essentially is what I've said. What's he said? Nothing.
Right.
So you're not getting a chance to have the discussion. That's the problem. And I could say whatever. People could say, well, that's Sussman talking. We don't believe him. Well, I can give you the reports. I can show you the information. If we had a debate, I would have a screen. One of the things I said to the people sponsoring the debate is, let's have and each party can post and they can show the source for all the information. So we're trying to move beyond factlessness. Frank, I'm sure you have the same problem, because you have statements you're making about the management of your community, of your town, and you can back those up, as Neil has explained, and I know Ovid Figueroa has explained to me over 100 different times, at least, maybe 200 times, and, you have facts. Okay, the other side wants to say something. Where are the facts? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to concur there. The reality here is this, and I don't want to expand this out of the local, the local community conversation, but it is again indicative of a much larger strategic ploy, which is if I undermine facts, then everything becomes suspect and nothing has solid ground. It doesn't matter how many documents Neil parades or I put up or anyone else puts up, for that matter, that verifies this. The counter to that is, well, that information is suspect, or that information isn't real, as a blatant lie, and it takes all of the wind out of the sail to even have a debate in any kind of real way. I mean, I certainly would applaud the opportunity of screens in the background. The simple act of debating requires actual ability to speak on a topic. In my most recent situation, my counterpart couldn't do that. Like, the best he could muster was, well, I don't really know. We'll have to look at that. We'll have to see. This is also part of the tactic of disarming the general public so that it appears as though you're willing to make the lift, but when in fact you're actually not willing to make the lift at all, because you have no background in the subject. And I think that, when you really debate, you have to have at least some background to sound intelligent. I mean,
but Frank, you've been a supervisor in your town. As I understand the situation, you are a supervisor and you have a foundation and knowledge of the issues. Your opponent really has not held that kind of an office. And in that sense, you should realistically have an advantage. And I would think, really, as you've said, want to debate. I'm in a situation where I'm running against a guy who's been there 12 years. So you'd think he'd want to be talking about his record and telling us all the things he's done about transportation in the county and housing in the county and actual economic development, what his IDA has really sponsored and how many jobs they've created. But the problem is the IDA supported, it's very well named, Dan Scammer. And they've spent $9 million on Dan Scammer, and there's one job that's been created. So what are you going to say?
Wow.
I mean, in other words, you'd think the incumbent would want to really defend his record. but he wants to
And-
talk about his financial acumen. And then I say, except Westchester County has a 1.51% effective property tax rate, and Orange County's at 2.34. So explain to the public what's the difference. We have Woodbury Commons, they don't. So why are we where we are? Tell the people, and to explain to the people why we should have a $200 million surplus when they're having a hard time making ends meet. Explain that to the people. That's all.
Yeah, Mike, I'm going to toss some.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead, Neil.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Neil.
I wanted, because Mike brought up Valley View, and I wanted to have a conversation about that. I'm sorry, Frank. I just wanted to ask Mike a question because I really think Mike hit a good point here. Right? The idea that we are not having these community conversations around real services, okay, that the county provides, okay? Right. Valley View being one of them, transportation being another. Now, I've heard the Newhouse crowd, right? For whether you agree with him or not, right? I've heard him make the argument that a senior living facility like Valley View should not be run by a government, right? Like that is not what government is really built to do. Okay. Now, again, whether you agree, there are people that might agree with that. There are people who might not agree with that, but that's a community conversation. That isn't for one party to decide. And I remember the fight for Valley View many years ago to keep it open. And I would like to hear a little bit more from Mike about that, because I think he hit a real point here with the idea that we are not having these community conversations around services, and not only at the county level, but in our local community. Can you maybe give us a little bit more detail,
Sure.
Mike, on that?
So just to go back in time, and we're not at that time right now, there was a group of individuals, entrepreneurs, led and counseled by William DeProspo, who was then the Republican county chair of Orange County, who were going around the state. They were going around the state, county by county, trying to get sold to themselves all the nursing homes that were then public nursing homes. They had kind of a corporation that was running around, and he obviously had some ins in Orange County, given that he was the Republican chair, and he convinced the Orange County Republican Party to support privatizing Valley View. Okay, so they went to the legislature, and they told the legislature that the facility had been running terribly, there was a terrible deficit, and they needed to do this to save their, okay. So Mr. Anagostakis, not me, Mr. Anagostakis, who was a Republican from Newburgh and a very wise financial guy, very, very schooled, and had done very well, retired at an early age, was serving in the legislature, and said, well, wait a minute. There's an incentive being given to the individuals who are now in charge of running Valley View, because they're part of a private contracted company that's connected to Mr. DeProspo. So the worse it looks, the more the county is going to want to sell Valley View. In other words, if they're losing a lot of money, and they're losing a lot of money, then the argument's going to be strengthened. So the truth is, he said, we're running the facility terribly, and we could be running the facility actually very well if we got the reimbursements we're supposed to get, which we're not even applying for. And Anagostakis has constructed this exceptional economic financial argument for why that was nonsensical, that we were losing money. It went to the county legislature, and the county legislature voted to privatize it, but they didn't realize they needed a supermajority vote. They needed a 2/3 vote because they were alienating county-owned property. And in order to do that, you have to have a 2/3 vote. They were one vote shy of 2/3, and I went to court and said, wait a minute, hold on. Your vote is invalid because you don't have the right number of votes, and the court agreed. So they had to go back to the legislature now to get the one vote. They couldn't get it. And Republicans stood with us to stop it, block the sale at that point. They were a vote short. Now what ended up happening is then they had to keep it, and all of a sudden, adopting all the Anagostakis' perspectives and getting the reimbursements they were supposed to, they started running the facility profitably. They were running it so profitably that now they were getting enough subsidies to put into the operating budget, which I talked about earlier. So now they started putting $10 and $12 million a year that they were benefiting from it, not back into Valley View, but into the general budget to build the surplus. Well, what was the result of that? They stopped paying salaries that were commensurate with the market to nurses and others. So that they began, and they're now still unable to recruit staff. So they said, well, now we have to start closing buildings here because we don't have enough staff to staff up the buildings. So the Parry building, which was one of the primary buildings, has been closed because they don't have enough people. So we have waiting lists of hundreds of people who want to get in there. And that goes to an issue you raised, which I'll address briefly in a minute. They have waiting lists, but they're trying to pay nurses about 2/3 the wages that are market wages. If you go to St. Luke's, whether you like it or not, nurses get $52 an hour. That's in their contract. Orange County wants to pay in the mid-30s. Okay, who can they get to work? Neil, you know how supply and demand works. That's it. So here's the thing, though, about this. In New York State, unfortunately, and I think we all could agree with this, anybody who's looked at this industry, nursing homes have been one of the most abominably run industries in the state. It's horrible. You have a loved one in a nursing home, you're really praying every moment.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. So we had a very well-run facility for many years. People wanted to go there. When you talk about the private sector, they wanted to go there because they felt that the quality of care there was high. And of course, the county took people's property in exchange for them getting into Valley View. That was literally a deal that was made with many of the people who still live there. They gave up their homes, gave the money to the county so they could have a lifetime residency there. And many of the people are still there. Now it's saying we're closing it, we're privatizing it. Well, what about the commitment, the covenant we made with those people? I wouldn't break that. So those are some of the issues that have been at play. But it's gotten so profitable that we can now give money to our operating budget from it and not put money back into it to improve it. That to me is the most salient point.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the idea is it was making money. You know, everything is about management, and I've talked to Frank about this. I've talked to Mike about this, right? And I've talked at length about this to the public. The idea that you have to have some type of business management, financial acumen to be able to, I mean, these are real businesses. Like, everybody thinks government, all right, you can put anybody there, you know, and they're going to do it. And it really takes a certain amount of acumen to understand that these are businesses, and you have to be able to run the business correctly. And you have to have the ability to run the business correctly. And you have to have the talent to run the business correctly. I have a lot of issues with civil service laws, right? When it comes to hiring practices, I do have an issue with that, right? We can take that up another time. But I think from getting to what Mike said, you know, this is the key when you're talking about hiring an executive like Mike or Frank. You know, Frank, what do you have to say on the subject?
No, I think that Mike makes some beautiful points, and it is very convoluted when you get into Diana's position on Valley View. It's even more laughable when the thing that is touted to be losing money somehow magically ends up making millions of dollars. It goes to the truthfulness of the position to begin with, and whether or not conflict of interest plays in this discussion. You know, Mike brought up another point about having contacts and ins in, you know, the Republican Party to help push forward an agenda. These are all things that I think are, you know, are evident both on the county level and also on the town level. And I think that the reality of that kind of deal making or business opportunity is not what government is set up for. I mean, the simple fact of the matter is this. When you approach governance, which is different than politics, if you approach governance with a capitalist ideology, you fail, because the whole purpose of government is to provide what the people can't provide for themselves. And the simple fact is that if those individuals who have been elected actually act in a capitalist way, they're preying upon their electric. Yes, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting stuck there. The tongue is a little cold from walking and knocking on doors here this morning.
No, you're good, Frank. We understand that. I think so. I played a clip before you both came on, where Frank was talking to the town of Wallkill board, right? And he was actually talking about that exact thing, right? It was a clip of basically him lecturing his 3 board members, right, on this idea of transparency, the idea of this backroom dealing, right, that is occurring in our local communities, whether it be the county or the town, and the impact it has on the people in general, right? Because if all these backroom deals are happening, you as the public are just being told, well, you can't have that because there's not enough money, but there seems to be money for everything else. So I want to kind of talk to Mike because I know that he has something to add to this. So
I do.
Mike, please share
All right.
your
Let me-
your
Let me
knowledge
tell
of
you.
this.
Let me tell you a vignette. There's so much that can be said, but let me tell you an interesting vignette. The town of Monroe, and I know we're not focused on Monroe, but you're talking about county issues, and this is a very interesting illustration of what you're speaking about. The town of Monroe has never had a town police department. They've relied on the New York State Police to police the town. So the current supervisor, Mr. Cardone, decides that he wants to make an agreement with the sheriff's department so that the sheriff's department is going to be providing the day-to-day policing in the town, which, by the way, is not the role of the sheriff's department. They do have a patrol division, but the patrol division is not supposed to be providing day-to-day policing for any of the towns, okay? So on September 12th of 2025, the sheriff, Mr. Arteta, sends over a signed 2-page contract, and I have it, which says the following 3 things. Number 1, we'll be providing you 2 police officers when we can, at my discretion. Number 2, we have a hold harmless clause in our favor so that anything our 2 police officers do, you're responsible for, meaning you, the town. And 3, this is going to cost you $750,000 for the next 6 months.
For 2 police officers for 6 months?
I'm just telling you. I mean, believe me, I have it here. If someone wants to see it, I'll put it up on the screen. Okay.
Oh my God.
So we have that, but this is what's going on. So I go to a meeting, and I say, this is in early October. These people are telling me about this, and I I say, could you please produce this document because no one in the community has seen the document and you appear to be ready to vote on it as a town board. You have a 3-2 split, Republican Democrats. The Democrats don't support it and nobody's seen it. So could you please make the agreement available so it can be analyzed because I don't want to just make statements about it. I don't know what's even in it. This is before I knew what I just told you. We don't have it. We don't have it. We don't have. What do you mean you don't have it? You're about to vote on it. You have to have it. We don't have it. We don't have it. Okay. So they have the meeting and they adjourn the table the matter because they don't know. They're still negotiating, none of which was true. There was a signed agreement by the sheriff and they were going to have a vote that night, but we came and objected. Finally, we got the document. Okay, we get the document. So now we have another meeting at which time people are coming to speak about the document. And none of this is even a bit exaggerated. At the last meeting, we started speaking, the members of the public, at about 7:20 and started speaking about this. And the issue then was really the collaboration with ICE. And people in the community were concerned because the sheriff's department was running this ICE facility and they didn't want ICE coming into the town and they felt that the sheriff was collaborating with it, blah, blah, blah. The whole thing was about ICE. I wasn't so much focused about ICE. I was more interested in the terms of the agreement, which of course we didn't then have. Okay, so now we have another meeting 2 weeks later and I have the document and I know the terms and I'm coming to the meeting prepared to speak. So you know what happened, Frank? You'd like this as a former town supervisor who's going to again be the town supervisor. This becomes the budget presentation. So the town supervisor, Mr. Cardone, gets up in front of the public at 7:07, and I'm not exaggerating, at 7:07, and he begins a 50-minute filibuster in which he's presenting his budget and at the same time making arguments about why everything he's done for the last 4 years is right and why everything his opponent is saying in this election is wrong. That's his budget presentation. Meanwhile, you have 50 members of the audience who are being held captive to this political speech. None of us can speak about the issue on the public agenda, which was the budget, as well as the police department issue, which obviously linked into the budget since $750,000 or so being allocated. I had another meeting. It happened to be in Hilburn, about 25 minutes away. At 8:30, I had to leave. I couldn't even speak. But this is what, when you say backroom dealing, the public is not even shown the damn, excuse my language, the damn document. Why not? How can you have an intelligent public discourse, a debate, and anything, a conversation? And, you know, Maureen Richardson, the Democrat running for supervisor, is saying, please release it to the public. You're out of order. You have 30 seconds to speak. Please shut up. He keeps shutting her up. That's the public meeting. Shut up, shut up, shut up. She says to the lawyer for the town, am I able to speak? The lawyer says, yes, you can speak. He, shut up, shut up. That's a public meeting. Literally, you can watch the videos and you can tell me if I'm lying about it. This is exactly what happened.
You know what, Denise? This is the thing that's really upsetting, and I think it's probably I would imagine it's a motivator for Mike. I know it was a motivator for me, not just the first time around, although it was, but more importantly the second time around, and that is, that is not abnormal. Sadly, that is how these guys, and in some instances gals, that is how they operate. And they think that they've got a blank check where they can write some astronomical amount of money for 2 officers. That really is about $200,000, and that includes annuities. For $700,000, that's a money grab. And that's a money grab with a deal done in a back room because Arteta happens to be somebody's friend, Mr. Cardone's friend. So, and that was a phone call that happened maybe on hours, maybe off hours. No one will ever know. There won't ever be any sort of a way to confirm any of this. And that's what happens. And then they parade it out as though it was, it's not only is it a done deal, but it's ordained. Like it was supposed to happen this way because they know better because they were elected and somehow know better. And the whole time the public is kept in the dark, the whole time. And again, I contend this is part of the process where they actively undermine governing. This is
But
all
one point
part
here,
of the strategy.
one point on this issue of undermining governing and all that. I think what it breeds, and you and I have both been going out, and Neil's obviously spent a lot of time over his career talking to people on the streets. I mean, I go out and I like doing it because you really get a feeling for what people are thinking, and he is the part of it. Many people are very skeptical and very cynical and very detached and very alienated. And from my point of view, there are 2 real reasons for this. One is our party has not over the years put forth a brand, a set of ideas, a set of programs for people to understand who we are and what we believe in. Okay, so we've left the playing field to another group, and the other group has fundamentally governed for its own benefit. That's the only way you can put any of this. I mean, I remember this 35 years ago when I tried to consolidate, literally when I was on the town board 35 years ago, I tried to consolidate the town and village police departments in Chester. I'm supposed to be this great liberal. I want to expand government. No, I want to contract government. I think we have too much government. I don't think in a town of 9,000 people, we need 2 separate police departments. What a radical idea. What the hell are we doing? I was almost hung from the chandelier in the Chester High School. Okay?
I can believe that.
I'm telling you the truth. It's 100% true. Now, we cannot continue to have one party because for all the reasons, Frank, you just very eloquently explained, one party rule leads to exactly these excesses. We have a lot of vested interests. That are literally, supposedly people who don't like government. They don't love government, except when they control government, they absolutely love government. And they want to keep controlling government for themselves and their friends. And this, it makes me indignant because their ideology is one of hatred, as you were explaining earlier, Neil, to public service and really doing things in the public interest. That's not what they're trying to do. Not at all. How is it that we have a transportation system in our county? It's not a system. I went over to speak in Middletown the other week. I mean, Neil, this goes into your town, by the way. And this is what I was told by the director of senior services at the Mulberry House, who's a lovely person. And I don't blame her for any of this, just to be clear. What did she tell me? And she repeated it in my office a few weeks later when I brought a bunch of people together to talk about this. She says to me, we can provide transportation for seniors. We have some buses and vans, but we can only go to the Middletown line. So I said, well, what happens if they have to go over to Wallkill or Goshen for a medical appointment? Well, we could drop them there at the line.
Oh my
Drop them at the
God.
line. Now, how in 12 years as county executive, and you've gotten repeated federal grants for transportation planning, repeated. I know this because I've seen the grants. How could you not have a networking system that is in place in 2025? What is going on?
So I was actually on that transportation committee. I did it for a couple of years before COVID, right? And what came out of the brilliant thing that came out, and I'm not going to say it's bad. It's good,
What
right?
is it?
But it was an app that you could go on, and if you needed to get from the city of Middletown to, say, the city of Newburgh, right, you could plan out your trip there using like dial-a-buses and like, you know, like it was like this joke of it. It was, you know, listen, something is better than nothing. But as you said, this county has a lot of money, right? Like we talk about the why don't we have a more robust transportation system? I mean, the things that you need to bring in businesses, and I've talked about this a lot, right? The idea you have to grow your assessed value in order to keep property taxes low. In order to be able to do that, you have to bring in commercial businesses, right? How do you bring in commercial businesses? Well, you need a strong workforce and you need transportation
To get people to those businesses.
right? Both two things that we see in Orange County that we are really struggling with. So how can we? So outside of just getting warehouses, how can we attract? And this is a good question for you, Mike. Sorry, Frank, I don't mean to keep asking Mike these questions, but I really think this. How are we going to? What are we going to do to attract more better businesses, more good-paying jobs in Orange County? Right.
All right. Here's
How do we get these things if we don't have the transportation and the people?
All right. Let's go back a step because I think Frank can join me in this conversation.
Okay.
When Amazon came with its 3.25 million square foot project in the rural community of Wawayanda, I said that we don't have no, I'm not, it's not, I mean, it's laughable on some level, but it's really not funny.
I know.
I said, this is not the correct place for a building of this magnitude. We do not have an infrastructure in this community for this. And what I use this term, I said, what we need to have is a Padovan Act. And I was referring to a brilliant Queens Republican named Frank Padovan. And you know why he was brilliant? Because when Willowbrook was being emptied out of all the mental patients they were trying to deinstitutionalize, Frank Padovan realized that there had to be community-based centers for people. You just can't have people, they're going out of Willowbrook. Where are they going? Into the street? You have to have a structure. You have to have a process. You have to have housing. Okay. And what the law said was if he came to Wallkill and proposed a site through the DDSO, the agency that was doing this, and you didn't like the site, you had 2 weeks to find another site. Okay? You couldn't just say, no, we're not housing those people. No, you couldn't do that. You had to come up with a better site than the one they came up with. Okay? That was his idea, and that's in the legislation. So I said to the construction unions, let's not make this about we don't want warehouses. Let's make this about where should the warehouses be? What should they be paying people in the county? Because the wages you're offering, the people can't live here. They can't live. Where are they going to live? What are you doing? You're creating a mismatch between the jobs, the housing, as you said, Neil, the transportation. What are we doing? And I said at that time, look at Chester, where I happen to be living for the last 37 years. We have an industrial park. You know the industrial park, Neil. You certainly know it now. We have industrial park. Who in the community has complained? Have I complained? I don't want a warehouse in the industrial park. I haven't said a damn thing. You have a dedicated area, which is well kept, There's a road going through it. There are how many warehouses there? 8, 10, I don't know how many, but quite a number, right? And they're
Yes.
large. And nobody's saying a damn thing. Okay, there are ways of doing that part of it. So yes, you're asking about transportation. It's obvious to me that what has to be done is you need to have a county authority that has the ability to knit together in a logical way these various disparate individual dial-a-bus, this, that. That's all passe. It's not going to work in the 21st century. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't
it's
make
gotta
any
be
sense.
countywide.
You need a county-wide structure, a system, and I know people don't want that. Well, we have to have that. It's not going to work any other way, honestly. The other thing about job training, we need to move the IDA away from subsidizing Amazon and into rebuilding our cities. We have in Newburgh and Middletown hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, go look at the rolls, hundreds of these buildings still owned by the county or the cities, off our tax rolls. And they're drug dens. They're destroying property values all around them. Who wants to buy a house next to this abandoned house or two? It's illogical. So what do? We set up with the unions job training programs. We have a lot of underemployed people there, unemployed people. We also know we have shortages in the skilled trades of people, plumbers, electricians, you down these trades. And Frank, you're in this business, you know this. There are shortages of people who have these abilities, and we need to train more people. We need to put them to work rebuilding these cities, equity housing, in exchange for rebuilding. Some of them can buy or rent or whatever, start populating with indigenous people who are now underemployed, unemployed, homeless, all of it. We have to make those kinds of investments. How can we do that if we're now spending $110 million in subsidies to Amazon?
Yeah.
You can't do it. And
Yeah.
we don't need to do that. They're going to come here anyway. We're at the crossroads of the region, going from Maine to down to Virginia. Orange County's right in the middle. They're coming here. We don't have to give them $110 million.
You couldn't have made a better point, Mike, because at the end of the day, that's how Middletown came to be. Literally, it was the crossroads for the railroad. And so that's the point. I want to just piggyback two things really quick. Neil pointed out the dial-a-bus thing. It is sad. In 21, I sat with actually Mike Sweeten down in Warwick to see if we couldn't come up with some plan of marrying dial-a-buses together and present that to the county. It got zero traction. And it was always a head scratcher to me why the county wasn't even trying to get involved in this, because I had robust conversations with a number of the manufacturers in the area at the time, to include Legoland, who were all ready to come to the table with money. So there was some other driving force that was a bit confusing to me, that was coloring this picture. But you couldn't be more accurate that the county, again, this is the role of government to step in and help shape the community and guide that process by way of master plans. And again, this is a thing that I'm struggling with. When I got in 20, I started, with Neil's help, started the Master Plan Review Committee, which had been dead for nearly a decade. With no revisions, no committee per se to do anything. It sat purely at the board's feet, and the board was quite literally working nilly-willy, making up borderline spot zoning, so borderline illegal moves based on backdoor deals. If the county had a vision, just like if the town of Wallkill had a vision, and those visions even remotely aligned, just like Warwick has a vision and Goshen has a vision, then those things could come together. That's a real thing, and it is attainable, and it is attainable on the backs of corporations who absolutely struggle with exactly what you say, Michael, with the fact that it's almost impossible to get individuals who have trade skills into positions where they can actually work. You're absolutely right. I work at a facility. We manufacture scenery for all over the world, but our predominant market is New York City. I struggle weekly to find welders, to find skilled carpenters, to find artisans. This is a real challenge, and it is in no short part because there isn't a way to survive in the county. And if you're outside the county, then it becomes too difficult to work. It's that
Got it.
simple. It's that
I
simple.
mean, if the only way you're accessing public transportation in Orange County is if you live in either the city of Middletown or the city of Newburgh. Otherwise, public transportation pretty much is a joke. And what you have and what the real struggle is, especially at a county and a municipal level, are rising housing costs, right? And
Yes.
I've talked about that. So if you push those individuals who need the public transportation out of the area they can access the public transportation, right? Then essentially what you end up doing is you end up getting rid of your working base, the people who are actually going to be doing the jobs, right, that you really need in your community. And that becomes a real struggle. And I would certainly, I really certainly think that needs to be addressed in a more robust way than it already is, because I think the county, I think local municipalities, I think everybody is sort of failing on that end.
Yeah.
To be honest, at least from my perspective of what I see as the modern world that we live in. This is the modern world that we live in,
Yeah.
and we have to start, addressing these issues, and we can't go, what I've seen is the county loves to accumulate money. They operate as a for-profit, just like our local towns are, just as Frank said. They're run by people who believe that they're for-profit entities as opposed to providing services. And then they wait till every election cycle to give away to local communities that bucket of money that they have in order to be able to gain votes, right? Oh, we'll
Right.
build you a park, or we'll give you this, we'll give you that, but nothing long-term or sustainable. It's nothing
Right.
long-term or sustainable. And
Okay.
and
I got
sorry.
I got a question from Nancy. Nancy, just back to transportation. She is wondering what were all the transportation grants spent on?
What I see in reviewing them is they are spent on planning.
But lost Frank.
What
Oh no,
what I
Frank.
have seen in the document, Neil was on the committee, so he can speak to this better than me. I was not on the committee, but I have minutes. I have all sorts of engineering studies. I have all sorts of planning documents, honestly, that I've seen very little implemented. Look, 6 weeks ago, Steve Newhouse came out with a plan for seniors, senior go seniors, I think he calls it. Now, this is 6 weeks before the election, and there's a number people can call to get rides, some sort of, I mean, it's not even funny. But, Neil, I think you pointed out something that's very important. I don't know what did happen with Frank, but this is really a crucial piece of all of what we're doing here 2 days before the election. There needs to be a much more robust conversation and a much more honest conversation that's in the public domain about all of these interconnected issues, because you were making clear in your comments how interconnected the issues are, as did Frank. Frank can't get workers for scenic, and he can't get workers for scenic, and I know scenic very well, okay? He can't get work. No, I mean, it's true. He can't get workers for scenic because the young people, I mean, and they're not getting terrible wages. I'm not accusing the company of that. They're getting wages, but the wages are not commensurate with housing costs in this county. I mean, I don't think you could make an argument they are. I mean, as much as we love scenic, they're not paying enough money. Now, that's what they can afford to pay. I get it. There's just a mismatch. And if you add transportation issues and barriers onto that, it makes even more impossible recruiting the workers he needs.
Yeah.
And as you said, Neil, earlier, that's the same story we're hearing again and again. So, we just had an economic summit that Steve Newhouse sponsored in September. I had my staff go. I didn't want to go and become a distraction there. I wanted to hear, have someone hear the content of it without becoming an issue myself. And what my staff reported back to me was no serious address to these issues, quite honestly. A lot of people patting themselves on the back, which is not really a truthful statement of where we are. But, all right, I've got to get going. I've really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Mike, for joining us.
Mike,
all of
thank you.
And Frank, good luck in your race coming up on Tuesday. And
Thank you. You as well,
we're
sir.
doing well in the county. The early voting numbers are very, very strong. I don't know if everybody knows that, but that's a statement of fact. Democrats have voted 6,900 Democrats to about 4,800 Republicans through yesterday early voting. There are about 3,000 blanks, but the turnout numbers are very, very good for this early on, and we just hope that it carries over. And I know lots of people are in the field on all sides trying to get voters to participate, which is in a democracy, obviously the most critical thing. The outcome's one thing, but the outcome's more valid if people actually participate. So I hope that each person really does. Whoever they vote for, obviously we want them to support us. But more importantly, really vote, participate. Thank you
Yes.
for a few minutes, everybody.
Thank
Thank you
Michael.
very much, Michael. Appreciate
Bye.
you
Good
being
luck
here.
to you.
All right.
On
Thank you
Tuesday.
all. Appreciate
Good
it
luck.
very
Yeah.
much. Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to find my way off of.
All right. So Frank, why don't you give us, we kind of, why don't you give us your information about sort of where you stand on some of those issues, and or at least the ones that relate to the town, and what you'd be looking to do for your next term to kind of help in some of these areas.
All really good questions. So, first, let me apologize for the technical stuff. It's funny here when you're working on your phone and you've got multiple apps working, the battery dies. So, that was a quick scramble. I wasn't lost. I just turned off the. I didn't want anybody to see me scurrying around trying to plug my phone in. Um, here's the thing that I think that is really interesting about this conversation from a political place. The county, as Mike had pointed out, and the town are run in parallel in a lot of ways. Most importantly, I think, in that both the county and the town uh, approach to how to solve budgetary issues looks at their municipality as a money making endeavor. And so I think that one of the biggest things for me, it certainly sounded like this was a big deal for Mike too, but I don't want to speak to the county stuff. But one of the big things for me was to speak specifically to the governance components of managing the town in a way that the taxpayers actually receive the services that they not only that they deserve, but that should be up a level because of the overall cost to live in the community.
Yeah.
So I would be a huge proponent and probably instigate, if things weren't already happening, this dialogue about expanding transit service to be intertown or intercommunity. The anecdote that Neil shared was shared with me in 2020, where someone was leaving Senior Way to go and to an appointment on the other side of Middletown and had to get dropped off at Wickham Avenue and Wisner Avenue because that was where the Middletown bus was, because Dial-A-Bus didn't go into Middletown. And then on the heels of the ribbon cutting at the manufacturer for the cardboard manufacturer out here near the Galleria, that discussion was robust from the manufacturer themselves to say, we can't get people here to work. Can you help? That was the impetus for the transit discussion. Between that and I had a contact at Legoland, Stephanie, who is the CEO over there, and spoke with her, and she had nearly mirrored that sentiment that getting people to work is a real problem, and we need to be able to speak to that. And the county didn't seem to be interested in having that conversation. So if I'm reelected, it will become a paramount conversation because again, I'm about community building, not about allowing the municipality to make money off the community, to actually spend that money on things that the community needs.
Yeah.
I think, I remember that conversation. That was one of the reasons why I actually joined the Orange County Transportation Committee. That was a conversation that Frank and I had back in the day about the need, you think about it, the town of Wallkill is larger now than the city of Middletown. The city of Middletown has city buses, okay? Right? Like the town of Wallkill, we're still using a Dial-A-Bus, right? And we have a higher population. And everybody could say, well, we're 64 square miles. Most of that population, though, right, is located in the Mechanicstown, Scotchtown area. Okay, and that's not insulting the other areas of town. That just is where the population is. That's a fact. And what I found is, Wallkill politics is very, very interesting in the fact that I talk to my constituents being in the third ward, okay, and they have one set of needs, and then you go out into one of these rural wards and they have another set of needs, right? And it becomes very difficult to have a dialogue because it creates an us versus them attitude. And that has to go away, right? Like, people need to get over that and understand we are one community, and we need to start working together as one community in terms of how we spend our money, right? And certainly not the way they're spending the money, because nobody even knows how they're spending money. They don't even know how they're spending money right now, because the money isn't accounted for. So I sort of like am with Frank on this. Like, these are we have to start having these community conversations. These backdoor deals that are occurring are really stifling a lot of things. And what we're seeing is the discontent that everybody's feeling at a national level, right? Whether you're Republican or Democrat, there's just massive amounts of discontent. Okay, it's filtering down to our local community, because even in our local communities we don't know.
Yeah.
And people become frustrated about how money is being spent. They feel money is being wasted, but then they turn around and say, what are you going to do to make a difference? How are you actually going to change things? Isn't this the other side of the same coin? And so, Frank, I know that's a really tough question, but that's a question I got asked a lot when I walked around.
No, I don't think
And
it's
I'm
a tough.
curious as to
Thank you,
what your thoughts are on
but
it.
I don't. Yeah, no, I don't think it's a tough question, because I think if you're in this discussion, then you have thought about that question. And if you haven't thought about that question, then you shouldn't be in this discussion. Now, I will tell you that if you are reading the Politics 101 handbook, that handbook is going to tell you, and will have told you over the many years, be cagey. Don't say specifics, so that when you're not pigeonholed into any one particular path. But I will tell you that some of the stuff that I have gotten at the doors as I've been knocking has been directly related to the fact that cagey kind of behavior, where you double speak or speak outside of both sides of your mouth, which has been a caricature of politicians since days of yore. It is doesn't have to be like that's a manufactured thing. That is not normal regular behavior. Normal regular
Right.
behavior has, hey, I want to do X. I see a need at Y, and I see that if I do X, Y gets met. So I'm going to do X. I recommend we do X. Now, the better part of that would be the opposite side saying, yeah, we all agree that X needs to happen, and let's have a debate about which direction to go, and then let's do a thing. Um, and in some bastardized version of that, we've seen that unfold on the national level uh, up until this most recent administration. But really, what we keep seeing is the administrations that are in power, specifically the Republican administrations that have been in power, they just decide that they know what's best. They're the father figure in this relationship, and they know what's best, and they're going to just dictate. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to dictate. I'm going to put out an idea, and if the idea has traction, then I'm going to be able to debate the idea, and I'm going to try to fix whatever ails the town. And there's a lot that ails the town,
Oh
so the
yeah.
list is probably going to be pretty long.
Very
I,
long.
I think I oh, sorry.
Oh, go
No,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, what you said, the point that you make is the exact point that I had been stressing for so long. And and it was something that I remember you trying to do the first time you were in office, right? It's the idea of starting the community conversation, right? Because listen, you may have an idea, okay? And this is the problem with the backroom dealing, right? Because I saw it firsthand. You might have an idea. It may be a decent idea, but there might be better ideas that come out of that one idea to make whatever it is that you want to do actually better and work better. Okay? And what I found is when I was on the board, there was a lot of bad policy just by that back room dealing, right? Because by the time you ended up in the room and I heard the information, because it would usually be my first time hearing it when we got into the room to have the discussion, I would always then say, well, what about this? What about this? And then I became the bad guy, right? Because they had already made up their mind. They had already made the decision about what they were going to do and how they were going to do it, and they didn't want any other opinions at the table at that point in time. And I thought that that was a real failure because there were things that could have, with things and ways that we could have done it better. So Frank is right. Putting these ideas out there, okay, and that way everybody can participate and try to help make them better and make them effective and make them work once they are passed, right, is really the way to build a community. And the
Yes.
one thing I've certainly seen that has been really lacking is that sense of community. People feel really disconnected from their local communities these days.
Yes.
And what it sounds like is that's exactly what Frank wants to bring back, is that sense of local community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
We
have,
need an
yeah.
approachable government because the people there. We've seen it with the videos of the meetings. Anybody asks too many questions, they sort of
Right.
get spoken down to. You know, um, it's we need more to bring our community together. We need more open dialogue with our community leaders, and we don't have that right now. And the people that are running are the same people from the same group with the same attitude that is not welcoming. That's not welcoming, and they don't want to be questioned. So yeah, that's. I'm glad that you're speaking about to community, speaking to open dialogue because that's what we need.
Well, I agree. Obviously, I'm going to say that it's troubling to me that my counterpart can't see the forest for the trees, even at this day and age, where even if he looks back at his own involvement at the town, he can you can track his own track record, and that whole notion is falling away. And I sort of likened it a couple days ago to this idea that you can keep up with the times, or you can still continue to listen to that same old music you've always listened to. And that's not saying that the new music is bad or good. That's not saying that the old music is bad or better or good, or it's just staying relevant. And one of the things that I said to this individual, I was like, look, when I got older, I never really thought of myself as being that older person. I just always wanted to be relevant. And I think that's really important to recognize, especially in this day and age when there's so many things that are disenfranchising voters. Most
Yes.
importantly, this notion, right, that it's us against them, that there's some sort of, red or blue T-shirt that we all have to wear. These things are ridiculous at the town level, like ridiculous. And
Yeah, I agree.
the only thing I can think of is like, listen. Here's what I would say: either you believe that the town should do absolutely nothing for you, and you can give them your tax dollars, and they should do nothing, and they should just collect those tax dollars and don't worry about where that money's going. Or you can be engaged and say, I owe these people something, and not just when they demand.
Yes.
I mean, that was the thing. The comment about that you played on the recording about the Ovids of the world, and I love Ovid. He's great. I mean, you really don't get much better an advocate. He is the textbook advocate. Those people show up, And the reality is that they get talked down to, and they get their 3 minutes listening to people who are looking at their phones. They don't care
Yeah.
that
Right.
there's no interaction. Like that dais does not care that you get 3 minutes to talk about whatever's on the agenda. They're up there, to Neil's point, they've already made up their mind. Like
Yes.
they're not, and especially if you come with a criticism. Like I don't know, Denise, if you've ever been at the podium, to say, hey,
No,
town
not
board,
yet.
I think you're going in the wrong direction. But it's concerning. Yeah, it's concerning.
Listen, I've been at meetings, right? And Frank can attest to this. I've been at meetings where I was talking about something as simple as internal controls for the accounting department, right? Like something stupid as that. Like we need to have oversight, review, and segregation of duties, right? Like basic stuff that anybody in business would tell you. Anybody who even owns their own business would tell you need those things, right? And I would have like Eric Valentin. He would say to me, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not an accountant. I don't have to listen to you, right?
You are an
Meanwhile,
accountant.
a guy like me, he even said I could never be a comptroller because I didn't have whatever, like it was like
You're a comptroller.
like he went on Facebook and he said I'm not a Jew. Like I mean, the guy is completely out of his mind, right? Like I mean, let's get real.
Psycho.
But at the same token, right? This is who your elected official is, and he's preventing something that is needed, right? And should be fairly agreeable to all of us, right? Like we should all be as just normal people say, the public needs to know that our assets are safeguarded. We paid for these things. We need to know that they are being accounted for correctly, right? Like there's a whole storage unit out at the highway garage over on 17M that has inventory in it that hasn't been put on the town's books yet because they can't figure out how to inventory it. Right?
Oh my God.
You paid for that. You paid for it, but it's sitting out there in a bin, and when they use it, that's when like it gets put in the inventory. Like stupid
crazy
shit.
stuff.
I think that
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, it is crazy stuff, Denise, and I will say this as well. It brings up a very interesting notion that what it is to run for a position in the town and what the expectation is. We've got somebody right now running for judge who's a real estate agent against somebody who's an attorney, right?
An actual lawyer.
And while there is an actual lawyer, 30 years, wrote the book on family court. Literally, she has a
Literally
book.
wrote the book. I was gonna say that.
Yeah, literally wrote the book on how to navigate family court in New York State. But my point is this: there are some skills that you absolutely have to run a town. Like you gotta be able to do them. It's a job interview. Like electing an official is a job interview, and
Exactly.
if the official's like, well, I'm a nice guy and I like to dance and eat pizza and here are my cute dogs. Like, yeah, sure, I got cute dogs and I love pizza. I mean, if you've seen me, you know I love pizza. I'm going to tell you that doesn't get you balanced books. Ask Neil. It doesn't get you someone who knows how to inventory your material so that you can capitalize it. It doesn't get you an ability to even understand accrual accounting, which in this day and age, to Neil's point, if you run a business and it's like a legit business, then you got to know how to do accrual accounting. So,
Oh, there it is, and there's Maria's
you got to
book.
have qualifications. You got to have some qualifications. Yeah, navigating.
Right.
Oh wow, I got the title.
There it is.
I pulled that one out of thin air, so I'm glad I was reached close.
Yeah, so far, folks,
But the reality
this is
is
your
this.
candidate. But let me
Yes,
ask you a
yes,
question.
And so
Oh, I think we have a delay.
yeah,
Wait.
sure.
Okay. So what do you, since I know you've been canvassing and you're talking to a lot of people, what is when you're asking what people's issues are, what do you find is the most common issue that you get from the people that you're talking to when you knock on doors?
It's very interesting because what I've been met with is a lot of the cynicism that we've been talking about earlier. And I've also been met with, I don't understand how the town cannot manage its money. And my response is, my response is, I don't know how they can't manage their money either. That's part of the reason why I'm running. Um, so
Excellent.
it's really
Excellent
those
response.
two things. Yes, it's those two things. But I will say this too. Like, look, the New York State Comptroller's draft calls out $4.1 million worth of what are they underreported income. Really, what that means is that the town, they didn't do their books properly, and so their assets and revenues did not meet what their expenditures were supposed to be. Really, what that means is that the town should have $4.1 million worth of surplus in the fund balance. Now, here's the trick on that. We can go back in and look
It's
at
a
the
big
fund balance
surplus.
reports. I don't know that we can do. Yeah, I don't know that we can do it now because we haven't closed books in so long. But you can theoretically, if we do forensic dive, you'll be able. And Neil can cut me off at any point here, Neil, because I am like, this is your world. But the reality here is that you can go back in and you can figure out where that money went. Now, the bigger rub in this is that money did not end up in a budget, so it should be theoretically sitting in a fund balance. That said, we just voted for an ambulance district at, I think
Yes.
it was 1.6 or 1.3 or something like that.
It's
So
1.3,
if the $4 million was, if it were in the budget, there would not have been a need to have a tax for that. Or certainly the tax could have been gradated, right? It could have started out at 30% and then worked its way up over the 5 years to 100% so that the district was
Oh,
paid.
listen, I had a whole thing on the ambulance district, right?
Right.
Yeah, we have a whole episode
we have
on it.
old. I could.
Yeah.
It should never listen. The city of Middletown, right, pays $660,000 to have an ambulance district. The town of Wallkill pays 1.3. I asked, why is there such a difference, right? And I was told, well, you got to look at the size of your municipality. And here's what I'm going to say to that. That's BS. Because I helped negotiate an ambulance district in my current municipality, and I know exactly, right, what is used to evaluate, right, the cost of an ambulance district. So this was an instance where the revenues weren't even accounted for. So every ambulance district, right, every ambulance company, right, has a revenue stream. Okay, because you transport somebody, you earn revenue from that. Okay, now I'm not going to say that's profit, but they do earn revenue, right? If you don't account for the revenues, then your costs are going to be higher, right? The city of Middletown, what happened was they entered a deal with Empress, and they were able to offset a lot of their costs to set up the ambulance district with the revenues that are earned from that district. We lost
we
Frank
lost
real
it.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be back in a second.
Well,
But in the town of Wallkill, they're not doing that.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so obviously they're paying for the entire district and allowing whoever they contract with to keep all the revenues. So, but again, that just goes down to management and negotiation. And I know Frank isn't here, but I would absolutely stick up for Frank's negotiating skills because Frank is very much a shrewd negotiator when it comes to contracts and various other things. I will give him that. I saw him negotiate a contract for with Fleet Enterprise, right, regarding our car fleet. I seen him negotiate with Pyramid. So he certainly is a shrewd negotiator. I don't know how much Frank heard of that or missed that, but it really comes down to the fact that they did not negotiate a good deal here. They basically just said, well, we know that an ambulance company needs this amount of money in order to stay afloat, so we're just going to give them that amount of money. And that's really what it came down to.
Yeah, the reality is that it does come down to negotiating. And I will say that part of that discussion does include what the revenue sources are for the ambulance company that we're doing business with. But the simple reality is this: um, there's monies left on the table, and that's the thing that is probably the most concerning about this, is that there's monies left on the table. And the other thing that I will say, having been in the room, and Neil will probably attest to this as well, this town board is wickedly penny wise and pound foolish.
Yeah.
Wickedly penny wise and pound foolish, and have been for years. I mean, decades, really, going all the way back to when the old town hall was where where Home Two Suites was. So, and the accounting has been a disaster since all the way back then. I mean, when I walked through the door in
That was a while ago.
2020, the reality was that they were still somehow managing to recover from the accounting books being done on legal pads. Like, there are boxes upon boxes of legal pads. That's not to say that the math was wrong, but there was a lot of opportunity for error because there was no cross-referencing, there was no verifying really of anything. It was all, well, she said it was okay, so it must be okay. And
Wow.
yeah, if you're going to get into a conversation with a municipality, you got to be able to negotiate. You got to come to the table and negotiate.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say this about the current administration: they really don't know how to negotiate. They talk a big game, and it's very similar again to the national level, where you're at the table and you have a big stick, so people are paying attention to you, but it's not because you actually know what you're doing. And
Right.
I think the reality is that the town has suffered through that way too long. So yeah.
I mean, I'll point this out again because we got him on the line. When it came to, so the first law, right, the first thing that George did when he got into office after winning the election was voting on the pyramid, the overlay, to allow Pyramid to do their apartment complex down by the Galleria. Okay, Frank had spent 2 years negotiating, right? Painstaking negotiations with Pyramid, okay, about getting a sidewalk and them doing certain things to give to the town. And those things, he was able to get those things. As soon as George Serrano got into office, all those things were gone, right? All those things disappeared altogether.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's sort of like you really need, you don't know what you don't know. And the idea being that if you think that the individuals you are electing have your best interest, right? The only way you're going to ever know that is through transparency.
Yes.
And if you don't have transparency, then you know that you're being lied to. And that's
Poor
really what it
Frank.
comes down to. He
Poor
comes
Frank
on
said-
after I compliment him. After I compliment him every time.
Yeah, you're missing all the good parts.
That's awesome.
But I do remember that
I
Frank
have
was.
no idea what it was that you said, but thank you so much.
You're welcome. No, what Frank was working on by sidewalk was a sidewalk that would have gone over that overpass and allowed people on foot to walk from 211 to the mall safely.
No, to from the apartment complex
Oh,
that
yeah.
they were building
I
on
was-
Smith Road to the train station, right? Because the idea was it was supposed to have a connection, be interconnected to our transportation system or the train station down there. So
Right.
that was what that sidewalk was. That disappeared. So all that negotiating Frank did over 2 years to get all those little things all went away because they took them all out as soon as George got into office, and George then voted on it because George didn't care. And again, it goes to there was a side negotiation here and Frank was in the way. Right? It really came down to Frank was in the way to what they really wanted to do, and they needed a way to get rid of Frank because then they
see?
immediately got what they wanted.
Yeah. So this is politics today. It's just backstabbing politics. There's no policy going on. There's no issues. There's nothing that's benefiting the public. It's just getting power and hanging on to power. And we got to turn that around, folks. Oh, I think we have
Frank, you seem to
is
be
he
muted.
muted?
We can't hear you.
Did
I know
he
he's
mute
talking.
Nope.
No.
Try to. Up.
All right. Still don't hear you.
Let me see. Do I have him? No. Yep. He's got to reconnect.
He's gonna try to reconnect again.
So, so we have to have like a GoFundMe for a laptop for Frank with a good camera and a good mic. It's actually, this is a great way for people for elected officials to stay in touch with the public, at least to have like a weekly address. They used to do it on radio. They used to do things like that. I remember Reagan used to have his weekly radio speeches. We're hearing about that now for other reasons, but he would do that. He would have a little address where, instead of a tweet, just a chance to get up in front for, 20 minutes and say, this is what we're working on this week, or this is what we accomplished. Please feel free to leave me a comment, and let's engage and see what we can do to make things better for you in the town. And I see that happening with Frank and with the other candidates who I think are out pounding the pavement right now.
Well, I think that Oh, he's back.
There he is.
Hopefully, we can hear him.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you now.
All right.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. So sorry about that, guys. This is the fates trying to tell me that I'm running my mouth too much.
Nah.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm jumping in here, but I just wanted to quickly just wrap up that one statement about the Smith Road development. We came trying to
Yeah, he's got a tough
attempt
connection.
to negotiate with MTA and Jersey Transit. Yeah, it's really rough. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, he's
Yep.
just cutting
All
out
right.
every so often.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I probably should wrap it up, although I have all kinds of bars and everything else, so I don't know what really is happening here other than technology. The ones and zeros aren't aligning.
That's what happens when you live in the rural world.
Yes, this is true. I think there might be a delay.
Yes,
Yes.
there is. That's not unusual.
I will through it.
He's got technical difficulties.
Yeah,
He's
I
getting
didn't
cut.
hear any of that.
Do you guys, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
now we
now we
can.
can.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to jump off. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right.
All
All right, I'm
right.
going to jump off and be right back. I'll see if I can't get a...
Boost that
All right,
router,
sounds
man.
good.
Boost that router.
Yeah, seriously.
I was watching just last night. Was it last night or the night before? I was watching The Mitchells versus the Machines. It's a Netflix movie that came out in 2021. It's an animated film, which when you look at what's kind of happening today with the technocracy, it's a little, it's a comedy, but you're looking at it, it's kind of funny. But there's a point when the machines are taking over, and the evil cell phone says, "Wait, do you see what I do?" And we turn off the Wi-Fi, and someone comes on with the big Wi-Fi painted on his chest and says, "We must make a sacrifice to the router." So that's what he's got to do. He's got to make a sacrifice to the router.
That would be funny.
The old world is dead. We must
All
make a
right, all right.
sacrifice
Is this
to the router.
now? Is this a sacrifice like we need like a live chicken, or is this something like
I
where
don't
it's like
know.
Wade Boggs and we could just go out and get like KFC and just be like, all right, here you go.
I don't know, but it was just a funny thing. It just cracked me up when I think about that. But yes, if you want to watch something that's funny, and you might, I mean, this was done in 2021, and when you
Right.
think about what's happening with automation and with AI, it's a little off-putting, but at the same time, it's hysterically funny. It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix-made comedy. and it's a family-oriented film, and it's called The Mitchells versus the Machines, and it happened to come back up on my watch list. So you might have to search for it, but if you want to look at something that you could just kill 90 minutes and have a good laugh, that's a good movie. So now we're doing movie reviews here on the podcast in the midst of politics and movie reviews. And by the way, thank you, Mary. Thank you so much for your engagement. And she loves us. We love you,
Yes.
Mary.
So one of the things I wanted to do is Mary, who's watching us today, had a very she had a statement that she wanted to kind of share with the public, and so since Frank is taking a minute, I would like to read her statement if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, as taxpayers living in the town of Wallkill over 45 years, we share our personal and professional experiences with the town of Wallkill board. It's our truth. The upcoming election results will dictate more of the same mess or afford a new path towards honesty, responsibility, and integrity. It's up to us, the people. Enough of the misjudging, mudslinging, and lies by Mr. Ralph Carr and his team. He's been a part of the current board's bad behavior for decades, and no good will come, if elected, if he takes the supervisor seat. He's too deeply entrenched in the behind the door secrets and disastrous mishandling of the town of Wallkill constituents for decades. As a result, the town doesn't even have a bond rating, much like a credit rating anymore. We balance our budget and keep a check on our finances. This is only the tip of the iceberg. We fully support and back Frank DenDanto III running for Town of Wallkill Supervisor. He has been fighting for balanced books and transparency. For us, every time we needed to address an issue as taxpayers, he met with us in person, up front, and realistically empowered us to use our voice and learn to become proactive. Frank was sufficient as efficient and sufficient as town supervisor, and he and the brand new candidates, along with our faithful Real Dem board member Steve Vanilla, will make things right. Our current town councilman, Mark Coyne, has repeatedly shown a lack of leadership and fairness. His cavalier behavior shows preference to only those he chooses. A lack of leadership resounds while he avoids and minimizes our concerns. His rubber stamping behind closed doors assures that the people don't matter. He has not served all the people. Time to leave. Gene Day, running against Coyne in Ward 1, will make an excellent leader to fill the role of town council person. She listens, learns, and responds, as leaders should, helping each constituent feel valued and heard. We have come to trust her and know she will serve all the people. The current town board members, all but Steve Vanilla, need to be replaced by competent candidates. Gene Day, Don Sileo, and Clifton Allen Baker. Current Ward 3 Councilman Steve Vanilla has been questioning the board's irresponsible shenanigans and voting against their insane votes, being roadblocked as a minority. As far as Rosie Otero Walsh running for Ward 2, our concern is her affiliation as proud Republican and her alignment with the current Trump administration. Our choice is fine man to serve in our second ward, Don Sileo. Sileo for town council. The endorsed Democrat by the Town of Wallkill Democratic Committee, who commits himself to the community daily as a longtime resident and will clean up the town financial mess. He has what it takes to be transparent and responsible. Eric Valentin, currently serving as Ward 2 councilman, has been speaking out of both sides of his mouth all along. His indignant attitude makes it uncomfortable for people to feel confident, and his lack of simple respect to concede to the primary winner, DeShonda Carter, shows his true
Welcome
colors.
back.
He's like a fox in the henhouse, realizing he has jumped ship and run for county legislature, District 11. DeShonda Carter, our choice, the endorsed candidate of the 11th legislative district, is perfect to fill the seat that Mr. Valentin hopes to grab. History shows he is not trustworthy.
Yeah.
DeShonda Carter, for Orange County Legislator District 11, has what it takes to serve the people of the town of Wallkill with respect and experience as leader, and is not afraid to speak the truth. I'll get back to this later now that we got Frank back. How's it going, Frank? Are you good now?
We hope so.
Who knows? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mary, by the way.
Okay,
That is
good.
a great essay. Thank you.
She has more here. I'll read it when we're done with Frank. Okay.
Are you still getting situated? Looks like he's still trying.
Yeah, I think we're as good as it's gonna get. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
That's so one of the things we want is better Wi-Fi in the district, in the town. That's what we want, better Wi-Fi.
That's 100% true. I will tell you, when I first moved out here to this property that I'm at right now, I didn't have Wi-Fi. I didn't have cell service, and which was a big deal. And then Spectrum came in. I didn't have at the time I was commuting into the city to work, and I didn't have New York One. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Spectrum's New York One.
Yep.
Yeah, so most of my news at that point was coming from there, and I was quite literally in a blackout zone. I couldn't talk to anybody, couldn't email anybody, couldn't get my news. It's gotten much better, but in recent years, it's actually started to slip a little bit. And I don't know if that's G5 or whatever that is, but something's going on.
Yeah, I've noticed that. So I when I'm out working, I'm frequently in Montgomery. I have a lot of clients out there, and I always had connections because oftentimes I have clients that will pay me with credit cards. So I need, an internet connection. I need the network to be up. And then all of a sudden, I didn't have, between the time of the crossover between 4G and 5G, no connection. Now, and it's still like that. It hasn't really gotten a lot better, and that's now a couple of years going on in in the town, not in the village, but in the town of Montgomery. So more where it's a little bit where it's less, more residential and more widespread. But it wasn't like that before then. My 4G connection was beautiful. I could run a credit card without any problem, and then all of a sudden, no good. So I don't know whether that has to do with wiring concerns or how they put things together. But so there's something to work with Spectrum to boost their service for us.
Bring back AOL's dial-up. Bring back AOL's dial-up.
You laugh. You
You
laugh.
have mail.
Yeah, I still use.
I was
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
voice of an app. Years ago, I had a friend that made his own software, and he had a little mail agent on a dial-up, and I was the "you have mail" voice on that dial-up. That was a long
That's
time ago. God.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that's my claim to fame as a voice. This is it. This and this podcast. I'm famous for the handful of people here. Cell service from Nancy. Cell service. We used to have great service along 211, but since Hurricane Sandy, the area of Walmart toward Middletown is horrible, even with the phone saying there's full bars. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think there's a block down there.
Yeah,
I truly believe that the stores down
Hair in my
there,
mouth.
they can block the cell service. They have the ability to block the cell service because they want you on their Wi-Fi. And something tells me that may be what's happening down there. I mean, that could be conspiracy altogether, but I go. I mean, I'm like right in the Verizon store, and I have no cell service. I mean, like it's
That's.
ridiculous.
I think we're now, it's possible for conspiracy to be reality because a lot of conspiracies are suddenly reality that we all used to brush off. So,
Right.
you know what? This is where we are. So, but all right,
Sad
What are you gonna
reality.
do to What are you gonna
Oh,
do to help us get better Wi-Fi, Frank?
Well, I'll have a conversation with Spectrum, that's for sure.
yeah, they're
And
like
see
right
if
across
that,
the
but they
street.
keep counting FiOS is coming. Yeah, I don't know what to say. They keep saying fiber's on its way. It's been on its way for almost a decade and a half. So, yeah, but
At least
I
they
don't,
still.
I don't know. Yes, I don't know what's. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
You
no,
were
go
starting
ahead,
to say,
finish.
Denise.
No, I was just saying at least. You
Oh,
you said
yeah,
15 years, probably 15, 20 years we've been hearing about fiber.
yeah, fiber's coming. I will say this at the end of the day, that's a little higher than a town conversation.
Oh yeah.
We had, there was a deal to bring fiber into the town like 3 years ago. Still not here. I don't get it. You know.
Well, again, I can't speak to why the town board's making the decisions and pursuing the stuff that it's pursuing. It seems to me so haphazard that it's literally doing damage control in so much as that it only addresses the things that either rear their head in such volume that can't ignore it. It shows up at the solar panel, whatever it is.
You're frozen, Frank. We can't
Oh,
even hear
poor
you. I'm
Frank.
sorry. Poor Frank.
There
There
you
he
go.
goes.
Now he's moving again.
All right, I'm
Oh
just gonna
no.
keep
Yeah.
moving. I guess now I am dancing.
Yeah.
All right, listen, guys, that's my cue. I should jump off.
All right.
No, we
Thank you,
totally get it.
Frank.
Thank you
Listen,
so
go.
much.
Remember to vote Frank DenDanto on Tuesday. All right. We want to make sure people get out and vote. We want transparency. We want open government. We want like basically public involvement and public conversations, and that's what Frank is offering. And I can't stress that enough. I think that's what, in order to make this the community everybody wants it to be, with or we're all participating, that's the only way to do it.
You
When
need people who
decisions are
are
made in
receptive to
secret,
that
right?
participation.
When decisions are made in secret and the public isn't involved, they can't be connected to their own community.
Yeah,
Agreed.
exactly.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Frank.
much, Frank. Good luck to you on Tuesday. See ya.
So let me finish reading Mary's little essay here, right? So we can get this done. So then she continues, Shauna Best for Orange County Legislator 9 will bring a fresh leadership proven by her vast experience as educator, advocate, and school board member and resident. Robert Sassy, on the other hand, her opponent, has done little to speak up against the onslaught of warehouse invasion through our rural communities. Time for fresh eyes and open ears. Maria Patricio for town justice, Wallkill Town Justice, is a clear and best choice to take the job as town justice. She's smart, as has represented over 9,000 clients in family court, literally wrote the book on family court, and worked as assistant chief attorney of the Legal Aid Society of Orange County. Her opponent, David Furlon, has no law degree, no legal experience at all. Maria knows how to work with people efficiently for her experience, and her experience speaks volumes. In closing, we must be involved and educated in the importance of how local government affects all people. It starts here and must reflect the voice of the people by leaders who protect the Constitution and the rule of law.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. That was very good. If anybody else
Very
has any
good.
comments, please feel free to share them. We would be happy to read them. Again, this isn't about what we agree with. If you have a comment on either side, I challenge people on the other side. Like, tell me what it is that why would you continue to vote for failed leadership?
Yeah.
That's sort of what I would like to kind of know.
Yeah, we got to stop being so tribal in our politics, and we have to start making it about people and community again, regardless of red or blue here. And I think that's what the problem is. And I think when we sit down and we talk, we really do want the same things. Everyone talks about transparency. Both sides talk about transparency. The question is, which side is delivering it? We've been with the same people in power for decades. And so, it's time for a change. Let's change that, and let's see if that change also brings about a change in the narrative. All of a sudden, that transparency happens. You're not going to know unless you vote for, you go against with the norms and vote for new candidates. We need new people.
I've been saying for a long time, right? Like, the whole idea is you need everybody at the table.
Yeah.
All ideas at the table. It's the only way you're going to get the best results, right? Those people who talk about, right? Like, I saw somebody post the other day, right? Vote red because Democrats are all socialists, right? And listen, I look at Chuck Schumer and I'm like, that man ain't a socialist by any stretch of the imagination, right? Like it's a joke, right? That would be like me turning around and saying all Republicans are fascists. It's not true. I know a lot of Republicans, and I know a lot of Republicans to be decent people, just like I know a lot of Democrats to be decent people. I also know a lot of Democrats who are shitty people, and I know a lot of Republicans who are shitty people. It's like, your party affiliation doesn't define you. Okay? And we need to get back to the idea of being a community. And right now what we're having is we're all turning on each other.
Yes.
Right? What we see is a community turning on each other, right? Red versus blue, this, immigrant versus non-immigrant, the top versus bottom, right?
Well, that's really what it is.
It is that, but at the end of the day, like you need just as much as business owners need workers need business owners, right? Like, this isn't, it's like what they call an ecosystem, right? Like, this is the economic ecosystem, right? We all need each other to survive, right? This assault on the working class, though, right? On the 1%, which is immigrants, trans community, gay couples,
LGBTQ.
gays in the military, LGBTQ, right? Like, all these attacks.
Well, it's
right?
just othering. It's just othering.
Right. It's this idea that listen, we have a problem. We're not really interested in solving it, but we're going to tell you who's to blame for it.
That's it. Don't look our way. Don't look at us.
Right.
Don't look at us sitting at the top here making all these decisions. Look at them.
Right. And what I found is you want to look at any problem, okay? Doesn't matter what problem. Look at who's profiting.
Exactly.
That's it. It's as simple as that. You look at a problem, look at who's profiting. I can tell you that there are a million programs out there, and I've talked about a number of them, including HUD, right? Like, I've actually talked about HUD, and I know, like, HUD is a Democratic, that's one of those the Democrats love HUD, Republicans hate HUD, right? And we've heard about the demonizing of HUD, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to dislike about how HUD works, right? There's a lot of things to like about HUD works, right? We all need to be at the table, though, to make it better. And this idea of, well, if we can't have a conversation about something, if you're not on the left and you're not on the right, then you can't be a part of the conversation at all, because those are the only two visions, those are the only two ideas that matter. And
Yeah.
that's what we are all disgruntled about.
Exactly.
That in and of itself is exactly what the right is so frustrated with and the left is so frustrated with, right?
Yeah.
Because there are ideas out there that the public has, and they think, you have the right that says the left is full of shit, and you have the left that thinks the right is full of shit. And nobody wants to listen to anybody else's ideas.
Right.
And I am encouraged, great, and I find it really a breath of fresh air, and I know that a lot of people are scared by it. But when a guy like Frank comes on and he says, listen, I'm going to have an idea, I'm going to share that idea, and you're going to have the opportunity to vote on that idea.
Yeah.
All right? You, the public, are going to have an opportunity to weigh in on that idea before anybody takes a vote.
That's complete complete diversion from what we're dealing with now. We votes are happening behind closed doors, and basically the town board events are like a show because decisions have already been made. We're just coming out there having a fake vote. Yep, we all voted because we did this yesterday, and it impacts. For those of you who might be watching and don't really understand how this impacts you as a resident of the town, it impacts you in what you pay in your taxes. That's the reason why we're so, if you follow this podcast, and by the way, just a reminder, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell and all that stuff. Leave us comments, which you are. But what we have been doing and what we've been exposing throughout from the very beginning of this podcast through our episodes is the fact that there is a problem with the finances, with the way these people are handling the books. That's a big thing, because that ends up costing us as taxpayers money, because if they don't have their shit in order, then they could be throwing out any numbers, and we could be paying, and Neil exposed that we could be paying a lot of money. We could be paying hundreds of dollars more than we should be because of irresponsible management of the books. So this is why we want you engaged. This is why we push this. This is the reason why we repeat this over and over and over again. Because you need to hear it and you need to ask questions. And when, these board meetings come up, even if you can't be there physically, they're often on Zoom. And so you can watch them and get that information and listen to what they're saying. Listen to how these people respond when they're questioned about books. They immediately go on the defensive to the point of being belligerent towards the people requesting information, belittling them.
Oh, listen, I got that in spades.
Yeah. And Neil, as a council person, had to deal with that. And I think everybody, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and mostly because of Neil's knowledge. I think we know that Neil knows what he's doing. He moved on to become a comptroller for Chester, and he's done some amazing work for their bookkeeping, brought them up to date, and they're very satisfied. I don't see any reason why having someone like Neil in that place, somebody who's responsible with the books here in the town of Wallkill, can't make a difference with our bookkeeping. And we need to bring it up, and we need to get things in order.
Listen, in any company, in any business, okay, everything, leadership starts at the top. All right, the tone, or not leadership, but the tone is set from the top, right? And if the top is corrupt and they're not willing to do the right things, okay, then that's going to filter all the way down, and that's what we've seen, right? I mean, right? Let's go back to the meeting a few weeks ago where they were talking about the $350,000, right? They were talking about the $350,000 as, well, the public would want us to spend this money, right? Well, it didn't need to be $350,000, right? If they had addressed those issues when either I wanted to address them back in 2017 or Frank wanted to address them in 2021, right? It wouldn't have been $350,000, right? So
Right.
this idea, right, that this is to benefit the public. There's no public benefit here, right?
No, it would have cost a lot less
screwed
if you would have been on top of it.
Right. They screwed you. These people have spent your money. Also, time is money. Okay. Frank had said when he got in office in 2020, he started the master plan review.
Yes.
Okay. We're now 5 years later. Are we any closer to actually voting or finalizing that? I mean, time is money.
Yeah.
Okay. You have moratoriums out there. You have various things going on, right? And you flat out said, we don't want to spend the money, right, on a municipal planner, on an engineer and a municipal planner. Okay. Well, now you're 5 years later, and you haven't, and now we essentially probably need to go back and start at the drawing board, right? Because they haven't done anything right. Like they haven't even done the whole town. They've only worked on one area of the town, right? So we need to do better, right? We need to understand time is money. We need expertise to advise us of certain things. Board members, right? Just because you elected them as something doesn't mean they're experts in that in everything, right? Like I love, these politicians. Oh, well, I'm an expert in economics. No, you're an attorney. Right? Right? We have Councilman Johnson that constant I'm an expert in business. You're a teacher. You're an earth science teacher. You've been an earth science teacher for 30 years, right? Oh, well, I'm an engineer. You're an earth science teacher. You've been an earth science teacher for 30 years. All right. I'm like every time something comes up, he's all of a sudden an expert. And it's like, no, you're not an expert. There are experts who study these things, who went to school for these things, who spent their entire careers working in these areas. Okay.
Surprise!
Hey,
Sileo
we have second ward councilman candidate Don Sileo here.
Thank you both.
Welcome. Yeah, just pop on in. Anybody else? Any other candidates? We're having a party here. It's a free for all. So
Don looks like he's in his car.
he's out there pounding the pavement, right?
Knocking on doors.
Very good.
How's it going, Don?
Excellent. Really good conversations and people who are engaged, some who follow you guys, and congratulations on what you're doing. Some who are getting snippets and have through the years, because Neil has been a fierce advocate. Right now, with Frank getting the word out as well, and all of us who want to correct what was just a horror here, it's been very engaging. I'm very pleased with the turn. Well, I can't say the turnout yet, right? We're hoping for turnout, but I'm pleased with the conversations at the door.
Well, we had Michael Sussman on earlier at the beginning of the show. I don't know if you caught any of that, but before he signed off, he mentioned that the turnout has been above average for Democrats right now. That it's a higher turnout so far with the early voting for Democrats versus Republicans. So that's very promising.
It is. And even dating back to when Town of Wallkill turned out for the Democratic presidential candidate and had a 10-point margin. owing to a large extent, knocking on doors and engaging people and reminding them, I know you're busy, you work hard, Democrats work, but getting to the polls can help decide our immediate future and long range future, especially when it comes to town decisions. So with more registered voters, getting them to the polls will make the difference.
Absolutely. So when you're knocking on doors, what do you find is most of the people's concerns, for the residents' concerns that you're talking to?
Secrets. They hate the fact that they're not getting the truth. They see me a pretty good deal. So lots of them have, over the years, I became active with the advent of the Tea Party. It just made me crazy. And so instead of throwing things at my TV, I decided I was going to go talk to my neighbors and see how they felt. So the engagement counts, they would like to know some of the things that I think Frank has as part of his agenda. What goes on before the vote? What are some of the details so that they can be involved? I am talking to folks who want to be involved. And so I love his idea about sending out word. And he told me, he said, Don, if you don't vote with the majority of the Ward 2 people, you better answer to them. And I said, I love it. That's exactly the way it should be. We're not thinking that the supervisor of a town should be a king any more than the president.
Exactly.
But if we can have from the bottom up and the people who care and pay voicing their opinion, getting in on it, that would be a huge win.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's good. Well, that's good. That's good to see more and more people getting engaged, becoming more aware. And if we're doing our job, it's just to simply point out that, because I've said this many times, is that most people are just looking at what's happening at the national level or at the state level, but nobody, or now we're doing that, but nobody really looks at what's going on in their own backyard. And that's how, and that's why we did this. And Neil has been instrumental with his knowledge to help us build this podcast and build our message and get that out there. And so we have plans to grow and to help to use what's going on here within our community to spread the message across the state and possibly across the country. That to look at your local government, look at your local municipalities. And know what's going on, because when you're engaged on the ground there, then you build back up to finally back to the state and national level. So,
and to also stress that they have power, that Neil's last election is such painful reminder, but proof that I say at the door, we had a trained accountant who was knowledgeable about the specific issues, had the path, and for it to come down to such a few votes, Neil, I have to tell you, your ears must be ringing. Every single door that has 3 or more voters, I say, this household could have made the difference.
yeah.
Just so that I put a little responsibility back on them, so that there is a balance and a sharing of the power, but it's that every single vote that counts. So that's the message, because most of the folks that I speak with, because I do appear on the independent line, and there are some people I understand who maybe from birth, maybe from the way they were raised, won't vote other than what they were raised. Maybe independent. And as a result, we went through the effort and are on the independent line as well as the Democratic line. And I tell people point blank, I says, I'm as Democrat as you can get, but I want you to know the money situation is green, not red or blue.
Yes.
So let's follow the money. Let's follow what has been already revealed and just take action. When Frank and Neil were there, they didn't have the majority. Folks, we need the majority or it stays the way it is.
That's it. You're absolutely right, 100%.
And for those who may not, let me just bring everybody up to speed. For those, he brought up my election. Those who may not be aware, my election against Supervisor Serrano was tie election, and I lost in court by 2 votes. So, and a judge made that ruling. So that's how that turned out, and that's why every vote, as Don had said, every vote matters. These are going to be very close elections. Whatever you think, this is your local town board. Maybe you don't think that they impact your lives, but these are your roads, your water, your sewer. These are your
Yep.
local property taxes, and as I've stated, you're being overcharged. There's no other way to look at it than you're being overcharged. And these guys don't know how much money they have. They don't know how to budget. They budgeted a $2.8 million budget deficit this year and every year. But yet somehow that budget deficit never comes to fruition because of the fact that they are playing games with the books.
Yes.
And if they're playing
They can
games
put
with the
anything in
books,
there.
that means that you are not being served appropriately as a taxpayer. So Don, I absolutely commend you for getting out and going door to door and doing that thing. I can tell you, I know how painful it is. Especially on the sneakers, you definitely need multiple pairs of sneakers. You need to go out and buy, like, people don't realize like the dumb shit that you need to do, like when you run for office, right? Like you need to actually buy multiple pairs of sneakers. Like you're gonna wear, you'll probably go through a pair of sneakers a month. Like it's
Just
not,
knocking on
true.
doors.
it's not,
Oh, that is,
it's not,
that's the down
it's
and dirty of it, Denise. That's where the rubber meets the road. Neil knows. Boy,
Literally.
oh boy. Joanne said she wouldn't let me out of the house with the sneakers that had been my campaign sneakers. Oh man, it's true.
My
But the good news
Hokas.
is
I love my Hokas.
I've lost weight. I've lost
that's
weight
good.
been knocking on doors.
That's it, getting in
Well,
shape. I mean, hey, if anything, it's getting you in shape. But
that's right.
I think the good point about, oops, hang on, almost dropped my phone. No, the good thing about getting out there is because, and getting back to the red versus blue, is that we need to get away from, again, the tribal politics and start voting for people. Start voting for people. That I remember we used to say that not that long ago, where I look at the person and I make a choice based on what their policies are, how they address the issues, and what their plans are. We don't vote for policy. We just vote for color. We just have red. We just draw a line. We get get a Sharpie and draw a line through that. We need to vote for people, and going door to door allows the public to engage with the people who are going to be running your town. That's why this is so important, and it's so great to see. I know it's tough. We're getting down to the wire though, and it's so great to see you guys out there and just killing it, man. Just talking to people and killing it, and we're seeing it because more and more Democrats are are showing up.
So Don, you get on the board. What are your goals being on the town board? What do you see as being your issues and why you're stepping into the ring?
So I remember back to the very, very first committee meetings that I made, where you were pretty much the only elected and maybe the only attendee other than the person running the meeting.
It's like
so,
3 of us. It was like 4
Yeah.
of us in a room.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So I have come up through the ranks, so to speak, and by being a canvasser and getting a feel for the town, I moved here primarily because of the beauty of the Hudson Valley, the hills and the trees. Much of the family is out on Long Island, and it struck me then, as I was a commuter, that it's painful to go through all that congestion. And I really have in my heart preserving the town as best as possible. I do understand 100% that we're at the important crossroads and there's money to be made by virtue of our location. But not to sacrifice the character of what is attractive about the Hudson Valley, just the nature itself. So that's on my list. So not overbuilding is one of the priorities. Having a plan, master plan that reaches so that if the good Lord's willing and there are any grandkids, that they can live in the same area. But I can tell you that so many of my friends who have kids looking for adults who are looking for housing here are priced out of the neighborhoods that they grew up in. So yes, the nature, but also the intelligence of the plan for what's going to be the future if we're continuing to attract people and the population is going up. So how do we fortify the schools to prepare for this increase in population? How do we have housing that is affordable and intelligently placed? I care deeply about the money. And I think that the number one responsibility that I saw you struggle with, and Frank, is if they are not treating other people's money with respect in a cavalier kind of take it for granted fashion, oh, we're the bosses. That's horrible to me. I think that the accountability for the money is the first thing that we have to address. But the other things I hold near and dear to my heart and would love to see some action on as well.
That's great, Don. Thanks. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. No, listen. Those were my issues. Those were exactly my issues. Exactly what I said. I had talked a lot about affordable housing, and you'll know from my votes, right? I voted a lot of against a lot of the workforce housing apartments that the town had, right? And that wasn't because I was against affordable housing. It's the idea of what defines affordable housing and as to what people are looking for. Okay. Right. This idea that people can't buy homes, right? Like that's the affordable housing that they're looking for. They can't buy something. Okay. Right. It's not always about renting, right? We don't always want to put people into renters' prisons. How do we move people out of renting and into home ownership? Right? Like if you're renting and then, it costs you $500,000 or more to buy a house, how much money do you have to save to even put the 10 or 20% down? Yeah, like that's a lot of money when you're renting at $2,000 a month. We have to have right. And I talk about Levittown, and I say what we need is really a Levittown type of HUD, thing. Don is from Long Island; he knows Levittown, and I say Levittown without the racism, right? Without the racism, because we know Levittown was ripe with racism. But I bring that up as an example of we in this country have the ability to provide affordable housing for purchase. Yeah. And we are not doing it. Okay. And I felt like, you look at Canterbury Knolls was set up for that exact purpose, right? It was that entry level housing for purchase. And nobody's building that type of development anymore. Those developments aren't even, it's either you build a McMansion complex or nothing at all. And
it's such a good point. And that's what attracted us to this area. And I went that route. It wasn't in town of Wallkill. My initial move from the city was to Warwick, the village outside Warwick, Florida, New York. And I selected a townhouse development because I thought I'd married a city girl and I wanted a built-in neighborhood. Yes. Single family housing I thought was going to be too isolating. So like the course that was possible, dare I say, last generation of home buyers, you could start off and then get a single family house if you want, which is exactly my experience. Once I could go for a single family house, moved to town of Wallkill, found a single family house, loved it, and made a few moves within town of Wallkill, 2 different homes for different reasons. But we have to address it. what's going to happen if all our kids can't stay here? So
Yeah.
I know it could draw most grandparents out of here. So, that is an issue. The congestion is an issue, affordability, for everything, but also the kinds of things, services. I was
Yeah.
very, very pleased, Neil, when you were instrumental in the treatment center. Why are we a community that does not have the services with 30,000 people in the, I mean, why are we having to send people to other communities for necessary, sometimes life-saving services? These are kinds of things I think every community has to provide, let alone it's been on the horizon for me because I don't know enough about it. But aren't our water systems like 50, 60 years old or older?
Oh,
So
that's a good question.
some of these major things that may have to be addressed someday, how are we preparing for that? There's plenty to do.
There is definitely plenty to do, and you're not wrong with those water and sewer systems. So one of the things that I learned when I got on the board that people don't talk about, it's one of those things that really gets into the weeds, is a lot of the piping that was put into the town, all right, was put in, in the 70s. So the reason why you're having, the water main breaks, right? Like, and it's particularly around the joints, right? Where there's a joint, you have the water main break is because the systems have outlived their useful lives. Now, I don't want people to get scared, but a lot of these pipes are the old asbestos pipes. So you can't just pull them out of the
Really?
ground and replace them. So, it comes down to, how do you replace them? Do you put them across the street? Do you put them on top of it? Do you, put one of those rubber pipes that go in there to, like, I mean, there are different methodologies and all come with different costs. And as a board, that's going to have to be something that gets evaluated. And, I would say Lou is very good at keeping up with a lot of that stuff, but, the board was not. Like Lou would have a plan, and then, Eric Valentin and the others would come in and say, I don't like that plan. I don't want to spend money on that. And that would, and then that would kill the plan. So there was a lot of that going on, and you as a board member have to, right, balance out where you're going to spend the money, what capital projects you're going to do. Like, there has to be some type of future planning, and these guys are still living 3 years ago. So I'm glad that you come in with a good vision and you see that these things are a problem and are issues, and that you want to address these issues because these issues are important for your local community, So thank you, Don.
Thank you both. I appreciate you. And with a little bit of daylight left, I'm going to excuse myself to just hit one more neighborhood.
Yes,
All right.
definitely.
Good luck,
Get
Don.
out there. Good luck to you on Tuesday. And everybody, vote for Don. All right? If you're in
Ron
Ward two,
Sileo,
Ward two,
second
right?
ward councilman.
Yes.
Thank you
All right.
again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. All right. So I heard from Alan Baker. I don't know if he's gonna try to connect. I didn't realize. I thought that I know you had been interacting with him as well. I did send him the link, so hopefully he will join us. I have interacted with DC Carter, and she has the link, but I know she was on the road. She said she was at a mall, so I don't know if she's going to be able to reach out. But again, I'm thinking we might either run
Well, it's
into
the last. We got the last 30 minutes. It's the last 30 minutes. So we've done a very good job and kind of going through everything. I don't know if anybody has any questions about what was sort of posted yesterday with our sort of reveal of certain things. There is another thing that I would like to bring up. You know, I know we're live, so I'll try to be as sensitive about this as possible. You know, there's a lot that people are saying about Frank, which is just not true, right? But here's sort of a thing that people don't understand, and it directly impacts Ralph Carr, okay? Because he made a side deal, okay, with an employee of the town that if they don't come out and file a harassment suit or a claim against the town and against Supervisor Serrano, right, that this individual will be reappointed. Okay, if he wins. So this goes to exactly the type of behavior that they institute, right? That they play by, right? This idea that that they're going to take this individual, a woman, right, who has been harassed, okay, by the supervisor, and basically hold her job over her head, okay,
Ooh.
right? So that way, you know, she doesn't do anything that would impact the election. Now, again, we saw this 2 elections ago, right?
Yes.
With the supervisor, where the town fathers came in, right, and said, we don't want you to do something until after the election. Here we're hearing the same thing. You know, you don't do anything until after the election. You get us to the election. If we win, we'll take care of you. Okay? This has got to stop. Okay? All right? This has really got to stop. This is BS stuff. Okay? You know, irrespective of what George did, right, which, you know, is between two adults, and I really don't care, right? The side deal is what I care about. Okay?
Yes.
Because that just like puts forth the idea that there's underhanded behavior going on, right? And you have Ralph Carr, right, protecting, okay, the current supervisor, who happens to be the same party affiliation, who's out at campaigning for him with him, right, trying to protect that aspect of it, right, so that he can win an election. Right? I've really had enough of this nonsense, right? And we saw this with, you know, not for nothing, we did see this with Dave Ferland too, who is going around talking about the fact that he is the only one really qualified to be a judge because he was a councilman, right? What did you do as a councilman, Mr. Ferland, right?
That
Like,
gives you
let's
any
ask that
legal
question.
Qualifications. Please,
Right. Not only
you're
did
killing me.
Not only do you not have any legal qualifications or legal bona fides, right? You haven't been to law school or anything like that, right? But you covered up for the police department that was harassing women,
Yeah. Oh my God.
right? Like, right, again, I go with, this is projection, right? Everything that they've slung, every little bit of mud that they've slung, right, at the supervisor candidate, Frank DenDanto, every little bit of mudslinging that they've done towards me, right, every little mudslinging that they've done towards any of the Democratic candidates could all be distilled down to projection.
Yes.
This is what they do, okay? And then they blame the other side for it.
We see
I've
this
had enough.
all across. We see this all across politics, and it's coming out. More and more people are seeing it. So yeah,
Right.
you know.
Why are you covering up for the current supervisor, Mr. Carr, and why are you making a deal, a promissory deal, okay, right, related to somebody's employment, right, if they don't, right, do what happened to them, if they don't reveal what happened to them, if they're, this is silencing victims, right? This is
Yes.
victim silencing. Okay, this is what they've been doing. We saw Eric Valentin do this at a board meeting, okay, where he stifled Mary Range, who was an employee of the town, who came before the town board to air a grievance, and he silenced her. He said, "No, you're not allowed to talk about that.
Oh
This
yeah.
isn't the place to talk about that." Okay, We continuously see this from that side. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was a video clip that I think you showed on here. So
It
look
wasn't
back.
me. Oh yeah, maybe I showed it on here, but it wasn't
I
me
think you
who
did.
originally
I think
posted
you
it.
did.
No,
Oh,
I showed it. I didn't post it, but I was the one who showed it. Yes.
right,
There
right.
was there was a clip. So I really, we have to start like believe your eyes, right? Like believe actions. Okay, actions speak louder than words. Um, believe your eyes, believe everything that you're seeing because the other side, all they've done is try to mislead you and gaslight you. I certainly, and one of the reasons why Denise and I started this podcast is we were sick and tired of the gaslighting,
Yes,
right? You
absolutely.
know, you want to call me out? Come on here, call me out. You think that I'm saying something that isn't true? Call me out, right? Fact is I have the receipts to back up everything I say.
He really does. He's very thorough.
That's what you get for picking a fight with an accountant.
Yeah, like they're detail oriented. We were talking about detailed oriented. Seriously, man.
These guys can't even get their spelling right on flyers that they put out to the entire board meeting. You
Yes, it
know?
was. Thank you, Nancy. October 28th, 2021 was that board meeting
Yes,
that
so
you're
you can
talking.
look it up yourself if you want. There's a Facebook group, Town of Wallkill United, where you can see all this stuff and read about all this stuff, where things are posted. At the end of the day, we need better representatives. We need people. We need leaders in this community. The only thing I will give credit to, my opponent in the last election, the current supervisor George Serrano, is he was very good at giving out awards. Okay, and recognizing people within our community. And I don't think he did the best job at it. I think it could certainly be done better. But that that created a community connection that wasn't there before.
Yes.
And I talked about that a lot, right? Like I really felt the need that we really needed to expand that and make it better. I think we should have been more inclusive, right? I was there were certain people that I had worked with in this community who deserved similar honors, but I was never asked.
Mm,
Right? Not only that, my opinion was never welcomed by these individuals. And to be honest with you, when you have a board and you're supposed to be operating as a board, that isn't that's classless.
yes. Yep.
All right? Treating other people like that is disrespectful and classless. And I've never treated them like that. That was the thing. I met with George on February 7th of 2022 when he took office, and me and him spent 2 hours together talking about the books and I treated him with respect. I offered him help. All right. And then what did he do? He created a fake Facebook page to defame me. Right?
Yes.
Like, I mean, that's the bullshit that you get is you know, if people are willing to treat people that they work with such disrespect, right? Then they're treating you and the public with disrespect. And I think that Don made a valid point, right? If they're treating they're treating your money with disrespect, they're treating you with disrespect.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep. And
You
let's
work
point out.
Oh, sorry.
Francis points out that, and we said this the other day, 27 women left under Serrano's administration. Yet they talk about Frank's,
Right.
Frank's harassment.
And they're being sued right now, a discrimination suit, right? Because they fired a woman, right, who was a minority.
Yes.
Okay? Because she was black. Right? They've set a precedent that if these type of claims come, that they are going to do an internal investigation. They set a precedent by doing that. They've done that twice. They did that once under Frank, and then it was done another time before I arrived with regard to the police chief. Okay, so this has now been done twice. So they set a precedent that this is yet when it comes to any claims against them, they refuse to do any investigation. Okay,
Oh,
it's only
absolutely.
the investigation is only on people that they have it out for.
Isn't that always the case?
Right? So these aren't unbiased or independent investigations. They're investigations that they orchestrate, and as I showed, right, like, they made the whole thing political, right? They brought in the party leader and the town fathers into the investigation, right, into Frank. Okay, what do the town fathers have to do with Frank wanting accounting information and her being unwilling to give it? like,
Yeah.
like, like, Frank, Ralph Carr has talked about numerous times, okay, that when he took office, he got cash flows. Dan DePew mentioned in the investigation, when he took office, he got cash flows. In 8 years in office, I had never seen one cash flow statement. I had asked, never once saw it. And you heard now
Wow.
a supervisor and a supervisor candidate who was a former councilman both say how important it was to managing the town's cash to have cash flows. Yet somehow, that was denied to me for 8 years.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and in the investigation, Mr. DePew, right, had said no, he's not entitled to it. He shouldn't have it.
Yeah. Exactly.
The supervisor and the deputy supervisor shouldn't have the
have
cash
it.
flows. Shouldn't
Yeah.
have it at all. That's not necessary for them to manage a business.
Oh yeah.
Right?
No, not at all. Nah.
I've never heard of it. It was the first time I've ever been told by an attorney, right, how to manage a business, how to manage finances in a business. First time,
Wow.
right?
This
First
is where
time.
we are at.
And I'm telling you right now, I filed a complaint against the attorneys for doing that, because that violates that. Listen, the comptroller's office is very clear about what the town board should have. Okay, the
Yeah.
the law is very clear about what the town board should have. Right? For any attorney to come in and say that you shouldn't have what the law says you should have. Okay, that's a breach of fiduciary responsibility. No attorney can tell you to violate the law, but
Oh,
yet
absolutely.
that's what this town has.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself, what is really going on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's the reason, and we're not going to find out unless we vote accordingly. Otherwise, things are just going to stay the same. You're just voting for the status quo. So listen, folks, we've got some people on here. Why don't you engage? Introduce yourselves. To the everybody else. What do you think so far? How are you liking this stream so far?
Give us some feedback. Any questions that you want asked? Anything
Even
that
just to us. Even just
Yeah.
to us. We still got roughly about 20 minutes, give or take, unless of course somebody connects. We know a lot of people are, out knocking on doors. So that's probably the reason why we hope to have some more people. But we can do this again. We can either do this later on in the evening, or we can do this tomorrow evening. After dinner, so
we were talking about maybe, because we have to eat, obviously Denise and I have to eat, so we were thinking about taking maybe an hour or 2 hour break and maybe coming back around 7 o'clock. If everybody is interested. If nobody's interested, then maybe we'll do a quick live session tomorrow evening. See if anybody is interested in that. But we've been talking for almost 3 hours now, so
yeah,
we're gonna need a break soon.
yeah. So what we'll do is we'll take a break at 5, and then come back at 7, and I'll make a note on that, post it on all our socials. But in the meantime, so are you all subscribed? Gotta ask. But so we'll do that. And my God, I feel bad. I didn't know. I know you had been engaging with Alan Baker, so I don't know whether he got the link, but I did get it out to him. So we can definitely make time for Alan if he's out there in the evening. We can let him know that we can have a spot for him because I know he wanted to be on here. He's running for
Listen,
Ward 4.
Fourth Ward Council person. He's a veteran for town council. He served in the military, and he's a great guy. I met him. Believe it or not, I met him and his wife during when I ran the last time around, and somehow I guess something I said for them
Speaking
registered,
of
and they
Clifton,
decided to run.
there
There he
you go.
is.
Look at him. Look at him right in front of
Yeah,
them.
buddy.
There you go. I am so sorry, Alan, for between Neil and I, we all relied on each other, and I didn't get you the link in time. So, but here
It's okay, and it's all
we'll say as long
the
as you need.
we're on. No, I wouldn't have much to say anyway. We're on the cutting edge of technology and internet reception out here.
Out here in the great distant rural area of town of Wallkill, which by the way, we do have some rural areas.
And I'm
It
in one
is.
of
He
them,
lives in a very rural area too.
and I'd like to keep it that way.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, fight for it. Um, yeah, Neil. I've been watching your podcast and whatnot, and I don't know that the public knows this particularly, but the whole fact that our last election, when you ran, was tied, came down to a tie, and one of the two votes that was thrown out was actually mine.
Oh.
So, yeah, mine. So I have as a cursory effort, just because ever since I moved to the town of Wallkill, about 5 people, give or take, write my name in because they know I'd be a good councilman and they know about my accounting background and they know we need a little help. And so, as a cursory effort, I wrote my name in. Turns out maybe I wrote it in the wrong spot or whatever. So, yeah, they convinced the judge somehow to throw out my entire ballot, right? Had they thrown out my vote against Mr. Johnson, it would have been of no consequence whatsoever. It would have made no difference, right? Well, I did, in fact, vote for myself this time. It was really easy because I'm on the ballot. And, yeah. And so, in keeping with that, because when it comes to my leanings, certainly I'm not very left at all. So I started an independent line called Wallkill Winning. A few other people joined me on that line. I extended it offer to Frank DenDanto, and also to Don. And so that's been a journey. But yeah, my background, trained and educated as an accountant, which is boring and no one wants to talk about it. But this just no one. It's such a train wreck, because I specialize in auditing government agencies. I actually did fraud audit was my specialty.
Oh, really?
And when I look at this audit, it is the biggest train, the one we have that covers what 18 to 21, whatever. It, it is a train wreck.
Really?
Yeah, it is. It is one of the worst train wrecks. I've sent little snippets of it. It's not been released to the public. Of course, there's so many copies of it out there now that it's basically, if you care, it's public knowledge. It is one of the worst audits I have ever, and I've reached out to people like, you ever seen anything worse than this? Like, can you do this worse? And so, like with our current administration, it's upfront knowledge. Every councilman knows about this. The current supervisor, you walk into this with a people that that work in a specialty that tell you your internal controls are not in place, that you can't trust your comptroller, that you don't have the proper separations of duties, that it's just all just wrong. And it's a known thing. When you take office, it's a known thing. Now, to speak to that, no one councilman could really make a change in that. That's not, you don't have that authority. The supervisor has the executive authority. The supervisor is basically the chief executive officer of the town. They have the ultimate, the buck starts and stops in that position. They have that ability. So we have a current administration. Every board member, other than Mr. Vanilla, is just cool with just, okay, we'll just roll with this.
Status quo.
Let's just let the status quo go. That's not, no. any and they say Republican. Well, I know more about Republicans than these pretend Republicans. They say they're Republicans. I'm not getting it. They dancing around with your puppy and all, whatever. You're dancing around with your dog, looking like a goofball. No, buddy, it ain't time for good old Ralph. That's not what we need. So there's no other. When the town board and the town received that auditor's report, there's no other response that I think personally, other than a full stop. No joke. You're not just whoa, whoa. Stop the train right here. Full stop. I think at that point it was time for a forensic recreation of those accounting records. At that point right there, if you got a differential between what you tell Albany you had and what you took in top line revenue of 4.1 million on average, right? That's a train wreck. You got to stop that. Now, in my experience doing audit, when you have a situation that is that bad, it's a virtual statistical impossibility that someone won't take advantage of your controls or that laxed. It's like it's I can't. It's basically impossible that someone won't have a go at it, right?
Yeah.
Somebody did.
Yeah. Oh, and they did. And how long did it take us to know about it? So the only thing with this, whatever happened, and that still it's got to go to court and we'll find out. But what happened with the guy from the comptrollers? And Neil, you tell me your point of view, but he shouldn't have access to affect account balance changes.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Good. Yeah.
there's a couple of things that I'd like to point out. So I go to training every year at with the comptroller's office, the New York State Comptroller's office.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Town of Wallkill is not unknown. Okay.
Can I speak to that?
I will. I'm just gonna let you know, it is not unknown because you mentioned Town of Wallkill to them, and their face, right, like their face immediately drops, right, like, ooh, like it's bad. Like it's bad when you're talking to a trainer, somebody who's not even in the audit group, about Town of Wallkill, and they're like, ooh, and they don't even want to even talk to you about it because they know how bad it is. All right, Alan, yeah, please.
Right there.
Yeah, no, but same thing because I have a few couple friends in Albany. But yeah, it's come back in feedback to me that Town of Wallkill has been used as an example of what not to do.
Yeah.
This is how you get it all wrong. Not a little bit wrong,
Yes.
not sort of wrong, not kind of wrong, completely wrong.
Yes.
And I showed and I sent a few former colleagues a snippet of this, what is year 2022 O'Connor's Davies audit that we have. Sent them the snippet of the little page where we have a subsequent event being mentioned, but we have a 22 audit mentioning a 2024 subsequent event when we lost our bond rating.
Yes.
The absurdity that's an absurdity. And what I can't believe is Mr. Carr's put out a thing stating that in his part, and he obviously believes it because he sent out a mailer with it on it, that his belief is that us losing our bond rating is immaterial.
No, it's not immaterial.
Yeah,
Oh my
I mean, it's
God.
on his mailer. I've got it in the kitchen in here.
Well, what's interesting about that is Dan DePew and Ralph Carr both showed up to a town board meeting, right, in 2021. Okay, when Frank DenDanto was doing the budget, right? He had a budget meeting. They both showed up, and they both talked about the bond rating. And they both said the finances are great. The town has a great bond rating. So, again, I go back to they're touting what they want to tout that makes them look good. And then when it doesn't make them look good, they turn around and they'll say something else.
Or say it's insignificant.
They'll tell you anything to get your vote.
Well, that
That's
begs
the
my
issue.
question is that, okay, and you being an accountant, you understand it. Materiality is a subject, right? It's
Yes.
subjective. It's subjective. Well, my question to him is, and I've asked him face to face, and he didn't answer me, but I've asked him, what is material?
Yeah.
If you think that's immaterial, it's a baseline function of a municipality to have the ability to borrow funds when needed for various reasons. It's a baseline requirement. It's not a thing, it's not an extravagance.
Right.
Okay. And when I've talked to voters and they've come to me because people are starting to recognize me because, well, up to now I've minded my own business and stayed behind the veil, but come to me to tell me that Mr. Carr and Mr. Johnson have come to their door and their message is there's nothing wrong with the town finances. We got money in the bank.
From
Okay.
3 years ago. From 3 years ago.
Yeah, from 3 years ago. You know, and me as a trained accountant, I'm like, it sounds good. We haven't had a hard close on the books. We're, yeah, okay. So we got money in the bank. We don't know if we haven't closed the last 2 years. We're at the end of 25. We don't know. We could owe all of that. We don't know. It's not been
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
no way to know.
But I do believe the town does in fact have money in the bank. The problem is with the loose controls, what bank is it in and under whose name?
There you
Just
go.
from the outside looking in. Okay, what? So yeah, I don't know.
This idea about cash from 3 years ago, right? Like you're again, right? So I pointed out that the highway garage. I pointed out yesterday about the highway garage.
Sure.
The highway garage is an administrative it's an administrative function of the town.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be in your general fund, right? They have it actually in their DA fund, their highway special projects fund, where you
It's
do
been
highway
last-
projects, right? So I don't know the answer to this question. I actually posed it because I wanted to know, right? Like, does the general fund owe money to the highway fund now as a result of this? Like, are there unrecorded liabilities because of the way that they're doing their accounting, right? And again, I go to, you don't know what you don't know, and I go with you. If it's not recorded, right, and we know that there are things not being recorded because the state comptroller has told us that things aren't being recorded. If it's not being recorded, right, that means it's missing, right? This idea,
Yeah.
like there's nothing missing because it's here. But again, if it's not being recorded now, right, and it's going to be recorded 3 years from now, right, it's missing now.
Yeah.
Okay, right? So I don't like this whole idea that nothing's missing or whatever, right? Again, you don't know what you don't know. Right.
That's we bore people with accounting. You don't know, right?
You don't know.
When you go up to set up an audit, and everybody does it, it starts with audit meeting, and you have to set an audit risk, establishing a risk level, and so I know the town of Wallkill flat failed that one, right?
Yes.
And I've heard Mr. Serrano in public inside board meetings attesting to it wasn't a big deal that the comptroller's rolling out the back door when the auditors are coming in the front door. Nothing to see here, folks. Yeah. That's the absurdity of that. That is the biggest risk. At least at the college I went to, when the person responsible for the record that I'm supposed to audit, when they're checking out the back door with boxes while I'm coming in the front door, that is your highest audit risk. You're supposed to set it to maximum. When I worked, thank God I had support and we had a good budget and real Republicans that I worked for, we would have sent in the fraud team immediately. Not it wouldn't have been. It just would have been a phone call. Just a phone call. We don't need the regular accountants. We need the cool ones with the other level of skill.
There you go.
Yeah.
I got a couple of comments from our listeners here, our watchers here. We have Francis points out that the board had the option to do a forensic audit and the board refused. And from James,
they refused
True
that.
story.
yeah, and
True
James,
story.
yeah, James mentions the audit may be a train wreck, but it can also be used as a guide to what needs to be done to get the train back on the track. And I think you made
Yes,
a point
correct.
similar to that earlier.
And I
I
want
think-
to share this for anybody that's listening. Once you get an accounting system, it's off the tracks, right? It doesn't even need to be intentionally off the tracks. I want to throw that out there in all fairness. Once it is, it's off the tracks, and it didn't have to be intentional. And the one big danger is, and I want to reach out to Neil. the people that do understand how accounting works and you don't can treat you like a damn fool. And I mean that. So they can present things to you, and if you don't have the skill set to see through it, well, just you're just gonna have to trust me because you don't know how to do this. And that's just the whole fact that I've got a town board and we'll sit and we'll have accounting records not closed. We call it a month in and a year in close for a reason. Our intent is to do it in the current year, not 3 years ago.
Exactly.
And they sit there like, though, this is all normal, everything's good. Current administration took office with this being a known condition. I mean, kind of publicly known at this point. After this election cycle, and dear Lord, we got to turn around and do it all again. It's going to be publicly known, and nothing's happened. It's like even after that, after the comptroller's audit, there's supposed to be a corrective action plan turned in, a plan turned in. Well, no one, we've tried to FOIA it. Well, I haven't, but other people have. So, well, we haven't gotten it, and we obviously it wasn't done, and
No,
so
they did not do. They did not. Because the corrective action plan would have had to have been voted on by the town board, and the town board never voted on a corrective action plan.
yeah,
So one was never done. One of the particular reasons why it was never done was because the auditor, who was so the town actually had three audits. I've spoken about this before. Only one of those audits was actually released in draft form. That's the one everybody has, and that was on the financial management. The disbursement and the payroll audits were not released at all, not even in draft form. So nobody has those. I have the verbal rendering of the payroll audit. The disbursements audit was done by the auditor, who is now, been accused of stealing the money. I think the one of the things that was brought up by James, who is on the line, that I was actually just about to bring up, was the fact that they love touting O'Connor Davies' audit, right? An audit, as Alan pointed out, has a materiality level and is not intended to find fraud. Okay? The intention to find fraud is up to your internal controls. I keep going over that over and over again. I've talked about that at nauseum. It's boring. I understand. But that's important because the internal controls would have been what would have prevented that auditor from allegedly stealing the $400,000, right? Like, this isn't brain surgery here. Okay? And one of the things that if you look at that audit report, and I'm sure Alan can attest to this, it was a qualified opinion. It wasn't even a clean opinion,
yeah,
Yeah.
no.
and it was
That was, I know
qualified because
this stuff, and I know it bores non-accountants. It doesn't. But just in a nutshell, for anyone that doesn't know, when you're doing the right thing, and it is, and I want to share with people that don't know accounting, when you follow generally accepted generally accepted accounting principles, it's called U.S. GAAP, whatever. Use a matching system and accrual-based accounting, and it's really easy now because we have a full thing called a codification. If you have questions about any procedure you're doing, you can reach to the codification, find the answers. It's super duper easy. All the accounting software has been updated to work with this. It is so easy if you do it right and it's done forthright. It's easy. It is so easy as an auditor to walk up, do your test. Like, we'll walk up when we do it. We're trying to do a physical asset. We got to check on that. Is that being recorded right? You'll do a random number sample of just random number sample. You go down your physical asset inventory, and that's equipment things. It could be a chainsaw, excavator, a truck, or whatever. You just do it. Do a random number sample. Bam. Check 40 items. If you find all 40, you're fantastic. Well, I've done audits and I hit it. Well, bam. I hit 40, and one of them is a dialysis machine, and it's gone. Well, that's like a big deal, you know. Different, but you should. But these things haven't been done. We don't know. Town of Wallkill, we can own excavators that hanging out somewhere that we don't know because we haven't done a physical asset. It's not being closed. We don't know. We don't know any
That's
of that.
interesting.
right. So what the adding to what Alan said, right? You have right? So you have your audit. They go in and do an audit, right? A clean audit means that they had no findings, right? So they did all that sample testing. They have no findings, right? If you have no findings, you get what's called an unqualified opinion. Okay, that means that they didn't find anything wrong with your books, and that your books are within whatever their materiality is, which they don't tell you, right? Is fairly stated because of these things, right? If they find something wrong, you get what's called a qualified opinion, right? That means that they did some testing and they found irregularities, but the irregularities may or may not, they haven't investigated, they don't know, may or may not impact your ability to rely on those financial statements as being good. Okay, so the 2022 financial statements, which are the first year that George was in office, that's what we have done now, is the first year, said it's a qualified opinion. So it wasn't clean, right? So they're pointing to an audit that was done, and they're saying, well, O'Connor Davies says that we're good. O'Connor Davies did not say you were good. You got a qualified opinion, right? O'Connor Davies said you have to clean up your act, okay? Which is a lot for them, because it really took me a lot to get them to move, right, the ball on that, right? Especially when they came in and did their risk assessment. Okay, so the what they're going around and telling people is a complete and utter lie. O'Connor Davies did not give you a clean opinion. O'Connor Davies did not say everything is great. You don't have to do anything. O'Connor Davies said that there's a problem that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Okay? They keep coming out and telling you the same lie over and over again, hoping that you'll believe them, because that's what they do. That's gaslighting. That is what is technically called gaslighting, right? And you are being gaslit into believing a story that they are telling you, because that's what they want you to believe, because they want you to believe that they're good people and that they tried really hard and that they didn't do anything wrong. But once you start peeling back the layers of that gaslighting, which I know firsthand because it happened to me for 8 years, right? You realize there's nothing there. The emperor has no clothes.
Yeah. Yep. And you've said that before.
And I think Alan now sees that, because Alan is now looking at this information coming to him, and he's coming to the same conclusion I came to. None of it really makes sense. Okay? It doesn't make sense, right? Like, from a numbers person, when you look at this, you say, this does not make sense, right? How is it that you continue to budget a $2.8 million deficit every year in their budget, which they've done now for the last 10 years, right? But yet continue to put money back into their bank account, right? And operate the town as
the number of bank accounts also is
right,
ridiculous. And I've
90-something bank accounts.
Oh,
It's that high now? Last I saw it was 70.
It's always been that high. It's always been that high. George likes to say it's less, but it's always been that high.
Yeah,
What
which
do you
is
need all these accounts open for?
you don't. Yeah, you definitely don't. And the difficulty, I mean, it's post Patriot Act. It's hard to open a bank account. It's not difficult to close one.
Right.
Not at all. And with this new thing that I see coming with this ambulance district, of course, I've been following that a bit. And nutshell, when you look back at that, it just appears that there's been a backroom deal for us to subsidize a private entity.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I don't know that that's very Republican, if we'll say it, because if the market won't bear the expense of running that ambulance district, okay, yeah, well, okay, what gives? We're next to the hospitals right there.
Yeah.
Got an
there are reasons. Like, I'll be the first one to say there are economic reasons, and one of them comes down to a lot of what ambulances get reimbursed for is from Medicaid.
Yeah.
And with all the Medicaid cuts, the ambulance industry, that industry has really been hit really, really hard.
Sure,
and
because they rely on that revenue.
And the way everything is run these days, okay, I'll know it. I know this from the non-for-profit world, right? When you're getting a grant or you're getting a reimbursement from a government agency, you're only getting reimbursed for operating costs. Okay. And that's fine and dandy if there's money being left over for administrative costs. But if you're only getting the operating costs, and even that is maybe a little bit less, right? You have administrative, like, you have to have accounting. You have to have, right? Like I always say, accounting is the cog of your wheel,
All
right?
all
If,
the sunk costs are still there.
right.
Yeah.
All the sunk cost, you have to maintain your building. You have to, like, there are things that need to be done. Now, one can go and say, okay, maybe we can reduce our administrative costs, right? And maybe that could be something that could be looked at. And but at the end of the day, these government agencies aren't reimbursing for those things. Okay. And it's become a lot harder for the ambulance industry to make a viable business, right? In the capitalist world, make a viable business of that industry. And that's why I said it really shouldn't fall on the local communities. I've said this all along. I think the county has money. Most counties around us have gone to a countywide ambulance system. I, this is the only county, right, in our immediate circle that doesn't have a countywide ambulance service, where local municipalities are being pushed to do it themselves.
Yeah, I feel like it would be better handled at a county level,
Yeah.
just because of the well, for a lot of reasons, but our where our geography's laid out and whatnot. But just from looking at this development of this ambulance district and whatnot, and it's several times I've seen members of the board, Mr. Serrano, but when Mr. Valentin wants to present this, that he has definitively speaking for an independent company that they'll cease to operate on January 1. And in
That's
my
not the way it
experience,
works.
in my experience, when you decide to pull the plug on a thing that's not profitable, it happens at the point you come to Jesus about that. And that's generally not scheduled on the fiscal year end. Oh well. And
No,
they
because
speak definitively. And it just makes me wonder, well, how can you speak so definitively about the internal operations of an independently private held company? Just makes you wonder.
it's
Yeah.
not what. Listen, the ambulance company is not ceasing on January 1. What they're doing is
Yeah.
they're starting something new on January 1, right? Like,
Yeah.
but my issue is, I think, what your issue is, right? It's like, our transportation system is municipality based, right? So each municipality is providing its own transportation system. Well, if you want to, like, nobody travels within their own municipality
No, you
anymore,
don't. You don't.
right? Like,
So
we're like one big community, Middletown, town of Wallkill, city of Newburgh, Monroe. Like,
Yep.
people have to get between those areas, and if you don't have a mechanism, if you don't have the county stepping in to provide that, right? And this is the same thing with the ambulance service, right? So are you telling me somebody is in the city of Middletown, right across the border, right, is having, an emergency, okay, and the town of Wallkill ambulance district, because of its borders, aren't going to be allowed to go, right, 5 feet into a Middletown district to help that person because they are because now it's a district, right? Like, now you need an intermunicipal agreement to allow that to happen. And we have a couple of properties in town, not for nothing, that are actually both city of Middletown and town of Wallkill, right? There are some properties where
I
where
have.
the border is right on somebody's property. So are they in the district? They may be paying for the district, but then, like, the ambulance going to come and say, well, they're outside the district because they're on the other side of a line, right? Like, this is the same thing with the transportation system, the ambulance system. They all should be provided for by the county, right? Like, it's
That would be
clearly
better
accounting
handled.
service.
The
Yeah.
differentiation between what is Middletown and what is Wallkill. You can't. I mean, where I'm out here with the bear and the turkeys and the deer, you can pretty much tell I'm in town of Wallkill. There's other places that we don't, and I've talked to a voter that literally owns a property that crosses the border. Right? They
Right.
technically have two different deeds, but their primary residence is in town of Wallkill. The other piece is in Middletown.
Right.
Okay.
There are a lot of those, believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
a
So
lot of
really
them.
crazy.
you got to draw a line.
And
You got to draw a line somewhere. But the differentiation between what's Middletown,
right.
what's Wallkill, when we get into our denser areas, there shouldn't be any restriction on that.
Yeah.
And I think it maybe it doesn't rely fully on the county, but maybe the county can, like, you need somebody at the county, right? Leadership at the county who is going to spearhead, right, a joint municipal service like an ambulance or like transportation or something like that, right? The idea that the county says, yeah, we don't want any involvement until we're mandated to do it. Okay, well, that's great, but that puts an undue hardship on those of us in our local communities who now have to fund it full dollar, right? Like, we have to
And we
fund the
don't
whole
know.
thing.
And what it sounds very palatable now, but the way Wallkill is laid out, it's big. My ward
Yeah.
alone would be big enough for an ambulance to. I mean, you'd need a post out here. You can
Yeah.
take a 20-minute drive, no problem in War Ford. Easy, easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that,
big. It is a lot. It is huge. So, but whatever we think it's going to start out now, I just know that it's going to escalate, and it's going to escalate quickly.
yeah.
Yes. And not to mention that the liability associated with it that could end up being associated with it. Like, there's a lot of things to take into consideration. And again, you need somebody who's willing to negotiate, right? Like, the idea that you're just going to give away the money, right? And then, right, as Alan said, continue to escalate that money over years,
No,
right?
it's going to go
So
up. Yeah.
that $120 today that you're spending per
No, that'll.
year,
I'll
right?
promise you. I'm gonna say it now. That'll be 300 in a hot minute. There's no way
Right.
that
It,
you
it's
can't.
it's going to
You can't.
continue
You
to
can't keep your
rise.
call times down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to continue to rise unless you get somebody in there who understands it, who's going to start advocating at the county, to pushing the county to be involved, county legislators who are going to be involved, right, and advocating for that. This isn't the old boys network, which the county has been run for so long,
Oh yeah.
and this town, the backroom dealing, it's just got to stop. Like, people are gonna, before you know it, you're gonna be paying all these taxes. You're not even gonna get roads.
Yeah. Yep.
So
You
Well,
won't even
we're
get
the
paved
ones that have
roads.
to stop it with our votes.
yeah. So for my own part is, and there could be plenty of things the board has done for Wallkill that's going in a good direction or whatever it could be, but when you don't have your financial house in order, it's bad. And when you gonna let that, like that O'Connor's Davies audit opinion pretty much sounds like, okay, we give up whatever. It's pretty much
It
we
really
gotta.
did sound like
No,
that.
I mean it really does when you read it. And I shared it with a couple of colleagues that we've done it. I mean,
Yeah.
it just sounds like, yeah, we give up. We got to get paid. Whatever. It's kind of what it sounds like, right? Because when you get a clean audit opinion, and then what it meant, what to try to explain to non-accountant people, a clean audit opinion means that a prudent person could depend on what you see here to make a educated decision. Like
Okay.
you can count on what you see presented here, right? Has nothing. But we read it, and I'm like, check this out. I just sent them a couple pages. They check it out. They're like, damn, they gave up. They're like, I'm done. And really, I sent it to people, and they just called me back laughing. It's like they just said, dude, I'm done. We got to make it stop. Yeah,
Well,
yeah, that's
that
pretty much what it
there's
looks like.
there's a lot of truth to that. It really does read like that. If
It
you're an
reads like an
accountant,
accountant. When you accountant reading, it's like, damn,
it,
this has got to stop. We got new clients. You gotta make the pain in. You gotta get
right,
paid and just make it stop. It really looks like, hey, I give up. Yeah, whatever.
Wow.
It's the idea. So you talk to those guys, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's the idea. You're talking about 2022 at this point in time. Your 2022 financial statements, there is absolutely zero relevancy, right, to those
None.
financials,
Beyond
right?
none.
There's nothing that they could be used for at all. Like, you can't use them for future planning. You can't use
Well,
them to help your bond rate. Like, there's nothing. So at some point, you're the auditor. You just say, fuck it.
well,
I'm just
you
gonna
gotta
I'm gonna
say,
give
I
up.
give up, make the pain
Right.
stop. I have other
Right.
clients. Let's just write a qualified opinion that's just okay, that, whatever,
Right.
and move
It
on.
was it, wa-
And it really
it was
looks like it really looks when I read it, I'm like, yeah, they just said, yeah, okay, I quit, whatever.
now here's my issue though, and I've had this issue a long time. Okay. Irrespective of what you think of O'Connor Davies, right? Like, and how good they are, how bad they are, or whatever, right? And I'm sure people who've done audits have opinions,
Yeah,
but
I have
at
no
this point,
opinion about the firm. I know
but
nothing about it. I just read the report.
at this point in time, they've been the auditors for the town for like almost 30 years now, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? There are clearly problems, and there are clearly problems that have gone on for a long time, right? There were control problems that there were issues with the internal controls of the town. At this point in time, wouldn't it be prudent? Like, wouldn't a prudent board, right, turn around and say these professionals failed us and failed to provide us with proper information, or failed to get through to us, right?
Yes.
Because as a board, right, they were telling the board what they wanted to hear. Okay,
And
I
it
was
does
there. I
happen.
know, right?
That's a strange thing that people don't understand. When you do audit, and it's that weird nuance of you have an ethical requirement to do a certain thing, but it's still a business, and you want to maintain those clients. You want that next year's audit engagement. So there's a nuance there to, okay, I can tell you the bad news, but I still want your business next year.
Right.
And so I think where Neil's going, we might need a new firm to take a good look at this.
Yes, that was my
Yeah,
And I
that's a
comment.
good
know
Was
idea.
nothing of and I know nothing of O'Connor Davies. I have no clue. Don't
no.
know anyone there. Their audit looks their presentation was fantastic. I got it. Their qualified opinion, I think they nuanced going around. This is a shit show. I
They
think
very much did.
they
Yes.
nuanced their way around their qualified opinion in the back. Is like, okay, yeah, it was nuanced, and I think it was presented well. But there is that thing about that relationship between your client and your auditors that the balance, and I think they're skirting that just as well as they could. Like,
I I'm also concerned that the auditor. So they received the draft opinion from the New York State Comptroller's office. I do not believe that the auditors received that opinion. I believe that they withheld it from them because they didn't want them to see it.
that they
Which is,
may have held that audit from O'Connor Davies. Yeah,
I think they did,
I mean, it wouldn't
because
surprise me that
the
that's even.
qualified opinion should have had more of what the comptroller's office had in terms of the controls and the qualifications, and the fact that they went light, right, and they seemed to kind of be like, we give up, and didn't
Pretty
have
much what it reads.
some of the stuff that the comptroller's office, makes me believe that they didn't even have the report.
And they may
Wow.
not have.
You
Yeah, they
know?
may not have. So
And it wouldn't surprise me, because that's how they operate, right? They don't tell their professionals what's really going on a lot of times. A lot of times the professionals may know, but a lot of times, like the lawyers and the accountants, they may not know what some of the issues are. You
Yeah.
know,
and
internal
you may
controls
not.
is up to you.
Yeah, and you may not at all. But essentially, folks, it's been great to join you, and
Thank
that's
you, Alan.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
why
no, thank you. I'm so glad
someone
we
that
got you in.
Well, that's why someone that generally I prefer minding my own business. Yeah, Ward 4, we could certainly use some a fresh look at that. And Mr. Johnson's fabulously qualified. He knows rocks.
Well, there you go.
I
Rocks.
mean, so yeah, so that way, if you know rocks, so if you pound rocks, you know what rocks you're pounding.
Right.
So,
There you go.
with
Well,
that
we have
thought, but yeah,
yeah, no, so definitely, folks, this is for Ward 4. This is Clifton Allen Baker. Do you go by Clifton or by Allen?
I know, ma'am. My name is really C. Allen Baker, but it's been a whole thing when I transitioned to New York. They put my first name on everything, and well, I've had to learn to just deal with that. So,
G- Got it.
so yeah, but
Okay.
no, my name's Allen. That's what I answer.
Okay.
Yeah, but if we're writing checks, put Clifton on it.
Oh, God, that's great. Oh, my God. Well, thank you so much, and good luck to you on Tuesday. Folks, this is the guy. First of all, we want accounting. This is an accountant. This is what you need on the town board, right? Someone
Well,
at the
we
same
we
level of
certainly could.
Neil.
Yes, that's facts. We could.
Yeah,
For
we've
sure.
got
All
it.
right, guys.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
Well, so
no.
you guys, good luck with TOWTalk, and I know you guys already know it's a 1-year election cycle. I'd like to support you through continuing because I believe we'll start 26 on the 5th.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we will be there every step of the way. So thanks so
for
much.
sure.
All right, we'll see you soon. Good luck.
It's been a pleasure, guys. I'm signing off.
You too. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Alan. Vote for Alan Baker, fourth ward councilman.
Yes.
And we're 20 minutes over, and I think we're gonna wrap it up now, right,
Yeah,
Denise?
we're gonna
So we can
wrap.
go eat.
Yeah, we're gonna go
and take
eat.
a rest.
Take a rest, but I think we're gonna jump back on for another live stream later on, somewhere between 7 and 8. We'll just we'll just put a blast out when we're live. Just depends on how long it takes to eat and clean up and all that kind of stuff. And oh my God, take potty breaks. It was so much easier when I was 30 years younger. But
And give our voices a rest because we're sounding a bit raspy here.
yes, yes. Well, not me. I haven't been. You guys have been doing most of the talking, which is great. I've just been trying to manage the chat here, so that's mostly what I've been doing. I've been managing our social media, keeping an eye on the chat. This is the first time we've done anything really like this, and I think it's been great. So again, we're gonna take a break. If you haven't already, like, share, subscribe, click on the bell. Thank you so much for your comments and for engaging. And we're going to come back later on, probably somewhere in the 7 o'clock hour, 7:30, 8 o'clock the latest for like another hour. All right, guys. Thanks again. We
Peace
love
out.
you all. We'll see you soon. Take care.